All right, let's see what we got going on here. You guys should be able to hear me. You guys should be able to see everything. Let me check what's going on here. Sending Grounds, how's it going? We are hanging out. Just kind of, man, working out the shoulders a little bit. I've been wrestling a lot, so I'm kind of tired. Plus, I've been hiking on the weekends every morning with the wife, so that's kind of a good thing. Just getting out there and doing kind of longer hikes. Well, what are we doing here? In about 2 hours. So let me show you guys the events we got coming up, because this might be useful for some people. You want to get attached or work with a group of people who are doing similar things to what you want to do. We got the writer's room starting in about an hour. I don't always participate in that. That's mostly the guys just putting together stuff. I did notice that they have the first part of the book up, so that's like super awesome. The start of the Linux automation engineering course is up, and that's going to be starting next Saturday. So next Saturday, that's kicking off, and they're doing a writer's room. They don't really have anything new for me yet, but I'm going to be giving them information and stuff this week to work on. But yeah, that kicks off on Saturday. So let's see down here. Yeah, 16-week automation course starts on September 20th. So that's coming right up. We're also going to start round 2 of the security engineering course. So that's already baked up and done. People just need to show up and do the work. So there's a fair amount of work in these courses. They're not designed to be easy. They're not designed to be like a walkthrough where, to be fair, comparing them to like a college class, I don't make you go do a lot of research. I do walk you through point A to point B, but there's a lot of digging deeper that you could go and I think really, develop some good skills from it if you wanted to. So that's just my thoughts on it. Writer's room's coming up. My maintenance is coming up for the lab. I've been doing a bunch of maintenance in the lab that you guys haven't seen. That's what I was going to work on right now for a little bit, and then also maybe write some of the stuff for the course. I had a bunch of college stuff. So it's funny, every day I have to post in my college classes where I teach. I don't have to. It's just years ago I found kind of like this metric sheet of all the things that they're kind of looking for. And one of the easiest ones that I'm always in like the top 3 percentile across all the college professors is I just post to my classes every day. There's also some other metrics that are like your volume compared to your students. That's one that I don't care nearly as much about. I just make sure that I'm responding to stuff, responding to questions. So like, it's kind of like, it's the same thing I heard about with project management early on in my career. Touch everything you do once a day. At least once a day. Make sure nothing's sitting there waiting on you, and send it back to, whoever or whatever. It's a really important thing if you're ever dealing with vendors too. Because vendors love to kick stuff over to you and go, well, the customer had it for 3 weeks. I never leave them that. And it's not because there's anything wrong with it. It's just, if we're going to be cooking on somebody's time, I want it to be their time. The time that, I don't want them to be like, well, I asked them this simple little question. And you're like, it was in the fucking notes, man. But, that's neither here nor there. Just don't. I try not to keep it there. Anyways, we're going to be doing the ProLUG maintenance, and then there's a bash study group every Saturday. So it doesn't look like, actually, it's kind of funny. Next week, you'll see them start popping up. I don't run the study groups. People run all the study groups around here for the courses. And what you'll see is when we start doing the courses again, people will start making study groups, some of the guys that have been through it. And then you'll have time to go. You'll see a whole bunch of events all through the server. So if you guys like playing in Discord, you're welcome to go hang out down there with us. Here's the topics for the course. The first week is always kind of like a housekeeping and kind of an alignment. Make sure everybody can get in. Automation tools, installation, and execution. So we're going to make sure that like you can at least execute your Ansible, right? Whatever environment you're in, do you have it installed? Can you execute it? We're going to make sure that you can do some Python. And Bash, really you just have to be able to get in a Linux shell to be able to do Bash. But those 3 tools are going to be our primary tools that we're going to do. So we're going to make sure that first week that you can get into them. We're probably going to touch all of like the high-level concepts of the whole course. And then we'll get into kind of the course proper the next week. But in the first week, there will be, discussion posts. We'll be doing at least 2 to 3 discussion posts a week, all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of interesting, like, you do something like this and people, you're always going to have some detractors. You're always going to have some people who want to complain about, oh, it's too much work, it's this and this. And it's like, well, the other side of it is I could just make it like a rubber stamp easy thing, and that wouldn't be worth anything to anybody. So I'd rather make it a little harder and make it worth it to the people that want to do the 8 to 10 hours a week of study you have to do to get it done. And we're going for 16 weeks on this one, so that's going to be kind of long. Although I will tell you there will be one weekend coming up. It will be, so this will be the first week, the 20th. It'll be the third week. I'm going to have to move the third week out. So we'll skip the third week, but I think that'll be good. That'll give people time to catch up if they need to, and time to realign with the course and all that kind of stuff too. So this is up there. Obviously the other two courses are up there already too. These ones are completely finished. I think the guys might be tweaking on them a little bit still, but for the most part, these courses are completely done with these as their, you know, their general topics and that kind of stuff. All right, so what did I have to do today then? So what I was doing earlier, I have a few other things to also do in here, but let's get this kind of cleaned up. Where's my, I guess I can use this one here. Let's go look at our SSH, and let's go. Oh yeah, just 818. So I need to get into the server, right? Which I'm pretty sure, this was a question from the other day. Let me go pull this up over here. And I don't actually know where I left it. It's always fun when I don't remember where I put something. Give me 1 second. So many things going on. I think that's the new thing. Okay. So now we've got the admin course, the security engineering course, and the automation course. So we'll go in the automation course. We get dropped in auto 1. He should be able to, I don't have the keys set yet, but he should be able to go into test, target 1-1. Yeah. Okay. But he can't get in there yet, which is fine because we're going to do something else for him to get access. So I have that as well. King said just jumping into the meeting. Good. Well, you're welcome to hang out. We are doing all the cleanup and stuff here. The other thing I need to do then is let's push over. Let's make. All right. Let's go to werewolf. Exit. Clear. So here's our nodes. I've turned off Rocky 3, 4, and 5 because I didn't have a whole lot of capacity in the labs because they kind of have to stay larger servers. I was trying to make them smaller servers, but because of the image that I used, I needed to leave them a little bigger. It's not going to be that big of a difference, but it's just it used a lot of my capacity for the extra the extra memory. So that's fine. That's fine for right now. We'll be fine with that. But now we have to make the auto servers be able to hit the target servers and be able to do the work in them. So probably the easiest way to do this. Oops, there's image. Probably the easiest way to do this is I'm going to split out the image that we're using for those nodes from the Rocky Linux 9 image, and we'll probably call it, target image, and then or target, we just call it target Rocky 9 or something like that. And we're going to give it a service account in there for Ansible, SVC Ansible, so it'll be service account. And then nobody will be able to get in on the root account. They'll have to use the service account. So the way I might do that is www.ctl image copy Rocky Linux 9 to target Linux 9, right? So we'll copy that over and make a new image. Boris, how's it going over on YouTube? Yeah, Ansible. Yeah, we're going to do Ansible for the automation course. Absolutely. Ansible's probably the thing that I can do the most with. And then I also want to, I think I have a thing to harden this. I need to do a little demo for my presentation. I have a presentation for work tomorrow that's going over the tool Werewolf, and there's one thing I haven't captured yet, so I might do this as well. So we'll build that image real quick, and then we'll go there. Boris said need to understand bootstrapping it better. I mean, this course unfortunately won't do a lot of bootstrapping, and the problem with bootstrapping is always, do I have enough like capacity to give everybody, like hardware space for it? Like I would love to have, like, I do actually have a separate network that comes into my house, but I don't like leave anything out on that one. Because I have two internet lines to my house, because I don't like being down as an engineer. If I'm gonna be down, I'm gonna lose all this money for the day. Well, I mean, I'd probably just take the day off, right? But the point is, I wouldn't want to do that. Right, just take time off to cover because I can't get on. I'd rather have two. But I'm saying, if I had my own lab where I could get you guys in and give you the ability to actually reset these machines and do hardware type booting, that would be super. But it's like, me and my friends, we all grew up kind of lower income, not even quite middle class, and we always joke around about the, like, when are we going to get out of the poor mindset, and you won't, like, we'll buy like a nice truck, but then we won't pay for like the $40 or the something package or whatever, because we're like, I'm not going to spend that. I'm be frugal on that one little tiny thing. Well, anyways, where I'm going with that is, it's the same kind of thing with this. It's like, I probably could spend a little bit and go set that all up. I just like in my mind, I just can't justify the cost yet. But it would probably be a couple grand to set something like that up, Boris, and then I could have it in its own environment. And that probably will be, maybe not this year. The thing I do want to get in the environment this year that we're kind of waiting on is, I want to get us I want to get us a little digits processor, so then we can do some AI stuff. But until we get that, it was kind of funny. I actually wasn't going to spend anything, but I do need to. One of these machines does need to get replaced. One of my machines only has 32 gigs of RAM in it. I do need to replace one of these guys. Not this guy. I don't know, he's one of them, but we do need to do a little maintenance in the lab as far as that kind of stuff goes. I'm missing some stuff. For all these, hey, how's it going, Quartz One? I appreciate the subscription. You don't have to watch ads, so that's kind of cool. Raleigh said, hold on, Red Hat has been taken up near releases of Ansible automation platform, and some of my wishes may be granted them. They really have a lot of work on the output. Yeah, Raleigh. I've only done a little bit with the Ansible automation platform since they changed it over to that. I did an upgrade to that when I was at AAA. And most of my stuff just still worked, so I didn't have to do anything. There was a little bit of environment, like, so if you guys ever use Ansible now, there are execution environments that you can configure. And there was a little bit of syncing that we had to do, me and my brother, when we were doing it, because a lot of the stuff can say out on the new Galaxy server, and then some of the stuff you can build in. But we have 3 execution servers in prod, so each of those servers you have to mirror the what they call like their execution environments across all of them. Yeah, Raleigh, and the UI, that's, I hate to complain about it, but that is like one thing that, like, I've always thought Red Hat was fantastically bad on. Like, I don't know if you've ever done anything in Satellite. Satellite is a fucking terrible UI. Probably one of the worst UIs I've ever been in. Satellite, like, so when you're downloading stuff and you're doing lifecycle management type stuff, and they'll just sit there and like hang, and they'll have this weird bar that, like, for some reason they made look like a barber stripe pole, and you're just like, the fuck is this? Like, tell me it's done or don't, but don't like just sit there with these weird. It's like when Microsoft used to have the Microsoft minutes, if any of you guys remember that back in the day. All right, hold on, I got to do this one thing with this real quick. We've got to set that image to these nodes now, so let's go. I think set, we'll find it. We'll be able to set the new, or maybe image. Pretty sure I haven't set an image for a while. Yeah, so I could set like this. right? But this will be interesting because I won't be able to set this the exact same way. So target Linux 9, and this is going to go against, this is where it's going to get weird. Let's just go with what the name of our target 1-1. Let's see if that'll modify it. Yep, that'll modify it. So we could do it manually real quick. 2-1. Whoops. I don't, the wild cards don't always work very well for these, so I'd like to do wild card, but since I put a dash in there, it's not going to work with the dash. So let's just try this real quick. Yep, okay. And then we'll just do it like this. 5-2. 4-2. This isn't the optimal way to do anything, but we only have to do it once in the lab, so we'll take the non-automation approach when we're doing it small scale. We could have also modified it in the nodes file directly, but what I need to do now, let's set those real quick. Let's check it. Yep, those are right. Let's do an overlay build, and then let's go to target 1 and make sure he still boots with the new okay. Whoops, didn't mean to exit again. That's good enough. So we can ping target 1 1-1 while we wait, and let's see what's going on over there. Not enough distinction between error and failure. Yeah, I'd say that's fair. Yeah, you don't know if it's just not doing it or if it's hanging on something, and the error messages that you would get were fantastically bad. We'd typically have to drop down into logs to see what had happened or wasn't happening. So, yeah, I've had a fair amount of problems with Satellite over the years. I was on Satellite 5 when we used to do spacewalk commands everywhere, and then when they moved to Satellite 6, and it was, Foreman and Catello, and what was it? It's Pulp and Foreman and Catello and a bunch of other stuff, and then they moved off of MongoDB because of that whole server-side stuff, server-side licensing, and just all kinds of stuff like that. So, yeah. Raleigh, it's actually funny. We have one of my favorite things about working on this NOAA project that I'm on is if we have like an extreme critical weather, there's critical weather days and then extreme weather events. Like, there's a name for them though. If either of those get called, all work stops, and we just kind of can't do anything for a few hours. So it's kind of there. King said, is an automation course very marketable jobs overseas? I don't know. I'm fantastically bad, even though I work with my college students that I've, had for a long time, and even though I work with a fair amount of people in the ProLUG, I'm fantastically bad at keeping up at how jobs are going, right? So like people tell me the job market's bad, I'm like, maybe it doesn't seem too good. And then they tell me it's good, and I'm like, maybe it's good. I've been kind of insulated from that for my whole career. But the thing that I'm insulated from that by is the same thing I'm trying to get everybody else to do, and that's be as good as they can at what they are, right? Like whatever you're gonna do, be the best at it that you can be. And I know that kind of sounds like a cop-out, but the question was, is the automation course very marketable? I think doing automation on systems administration is probably the most valuable skill you can have. It's right up there with troubleshooting. Because if you can troubleshoot stuff, people are going to keep you around. But if you can automate stuff so that stuff doesn't normally break, that's going to keep you around the organization too. So, yeah. Yeah, because when you can automate it, first, that proves that you can understand it, right? And I know I always have this question, right? People always asking me, like, is there any prerequisites for this course? I've never made a prerequisite for the course. I think the next one I'm going to do probably will have like a prereq, but none of the ones that we've done so far have had a prereq. And I say that to kind of point out that this one would favor heavily people who had completed the typical administration course, because we're doing administration. We're just now taking all the steps and turning them into procedures and things that you would normally, I think, already do if you were doing admin work, and now we're making the computer do it for us, right? All right, let's go SH over there real quick. I want to see. It's up. He's there. Okay. So now that we have this other thing, let's go play with something here. Do I have Ansible here? Dash. Stig. I can't believe I left that other. All right. So this is what we're gonna do for a little part of this right here, and what I want to show here is Rocky Linux 9. That's the old one. And we're going to use 9. Okay. Yeah, that's that playbook. So what we need to do, so we're going to build. So I want people to conceptualize this. Also, I have to draw some stuff today. I don't have to draw it today. I have to draw it by next Saturday. But today would be just as good as any day to draw it. I need to draw up what the lab is going to look like for people. In that, you know, you come into one of the auto servers, which node should you be controlling? Because technically you're going to be able to control all the targets, but you should only be doing your 2 targets or whatever. No, Kings, that's not a problem. I don't mind. I don't mind answering questions for people. What I would tell you is the courses that we have coming up, the ones that you can actually get little certificates for, are going to be the security. Oh, where's he at? Security engineering courses starting up on the 20th, and the automation courses coming up. We are not doing another version of the Linux admin course until probably 2026. We're probably going to start it again. We had 130 people say they were coming, and I think we had 3 people finish it. So it was like, I don't know how to put this. That's not going to sound super Chad, but I'm not going to waste my time, right? Like if nobody wants, if everybody says they want to come, but then nobody comes, I could be working on all these other courses that people were, I'd say they were a little more hot for. The security engineering course, we had like 100 people say they were coming, and only I think 6 of them passed. Well, and when I say passed, it's not like a pass-fail. It's just you didn't finish it. DNF, did not finish, right? But so could you crash the automation course and still pick up the skills of like admin stuff? You absolutely could. It'd just be more time. I'm billing these at about like 8 to 10 hours a week of your time. So I'm not billing you like charging you. I'm saying it's going to take you about 8 to 10 hours a week to finish things. So you have to allocate your time properly for that. And again, a lot of people chose not to finish, and that's, I get it, man. Life gets in the way. Life's important. I'm going to show you guys what I'm going to do, though. I'm about to chroot into this environment. So let's look at our chroots. And then let's look at our site.yaml. And I'm going to do a thing here where I'm going to steal from myself. So I'm going to copy site.yaml. And I'm just going to copy that over to, we'll call it... doesn't really matter. We're going to make SVC Ansible deploy module. And what we're going to do here is, instead of roles, we're actually just going to skip out on roles, and we're going to use tasks, right? And then in tasks, we're going to have name, and our name is going to be whatever the thing is. And instead of applying Stig hardening, we're going to switch this over to create and deploy the user right? So it'll be Ansible. So we're going to deploy the service Ansible user, and then this would be create user. Create the user, and then you know what we'll do? We'll create the user first, and then we will do, after the creation of the user, then we'll focus on. I will add. I'm trying to think if I should add the keys. I don't think I'm gonna set up keys. I'm gonna let people set up their own keys if they want. I think how I want to do this. It's yeah, let me think about this. Let me think about the best way to do this. Hold on, let's pull something up here. We are going to reference things because I can never remember anything. I'm pretty sure I know how to do the user module, but just for fun, we're going to go look up at the Ansible built-in user module, right? And we're going to make sure that we're using it in a way that does the thing that we want it to do in the environment. So we can make a name and comment and UID and group, and if we need to change anything else, if we want to create the home directory, we can. Let's create the user. Let's do all that stuff. We're going to do create home directory no, which I believe is the default. Yeah, let's go ahead and try this. So we'll say ansible.builtin .user, right? I haven't written one of these from scratch in a while. And then here we're going to do name is going to be svc ansible, right? And then the UID, we'll make him a solid UID of, let's make him 10.0.050. That'll be out of the way. GUID will be the same. And we can leave. I don't think we have to set the group if we don't need to. But for fun, we're going to set the group to wheel. Anybody know why he needs to be in wheel for a Red Hat type system? That's something to think about. And then state will automatically be present because that's the default, or we could do state absent if we wanted to remove them. Let's just do this for now. And we're not going to set his home directory because as we come up here, we can see home is set by default to. We can't create his home anyways because it's going to get squashed over. Like even if we made it down in the directory home, optionally set the user's home directory. We're not worried about that. And yeah, it's for sudo, Boris. That's exactly right. Yeah, when you put him, so these users will jump in as the service Ansible account, and then we'll escalate or sudo up to the permission set that we need. That's exactly right. You know what? Just for fun, I'm going to get rid of roles because I really don't need that. We'll just stick with tasks, create the user, service Ansible. Right? That's fine. Now, the reason I'm actually doing this is I actually need to capture the output of this because I want to capture it for for that course that I'm doing. So now, right in here, we're going to run our playbook that we just made against that chroot environment. So we're going to say Ansible playbook, right? And we're going to say -i chroot. So we're going to use chroots. And then we're going to, actually, you know, hold on. I got to clear this all up. Clear. Let's cat chroots again, so we see it. Let's cat svc Ansible deploy, and then let's do our Ansible playbook, which is -i in chroots, and then the playbook will be svc Ansible. Yeah. Now this is going to go into that chroot environment, and it's going to deploy that user as long as we didn't do anything wrong. All right. So I got to grab this for my little presentation. Where's that? Here. Give me a second here. The reason I'm doing this, so this goes in a course that I've made, well, a different talk that I've done with you guys. And hold on. This is, so this is the version, yes, so this is my version for Redline for my company tomorrow. And editing images directly through chroot jail, you can go do that manually, and this is manually. Right? And then, let's copy this, duplicate this slide, and then Ansible editing images directly through. And that would be something like this, right? Where, oops. So, and then actually, here's the cool thing: is you could modify this. You could, you know, I don't like that. Move it back. I might move this up though. So I know that probably isn't like tracking for everybody, but that's a pretty cool little thing that I just did, where I just CH rooted into that environment and modified it. So it's a container image, right? But I modified it on this machine just by doing that little bit of Ansible, and I could now do that against bunch of them. I could use that as part of a pipeline. If we talk about pipelining and bringing in new versions of things and then overlaying the things that I need. In fact, when we first did this, and this will be probably one of the challenges during the course, if some of you remember this, hold on, I'll pull this thing up that I did, and some of you will be like, oh yeah, I remember when you were doing all that stuff because you're a dummy. And I'll say, I 100% agree that I'm a dummy, but hold on. When I was doing this, some of you might have been like, well, Scott, why did you keep track of all that stuff that you did? Hold on, where's it at? No, that's an old one. I'll get it. I'll find it. Hold on. I didn't move it that far back. Yeah. So when we were building out the home lab image, and you guys saw me like adding this and adding this and adding this and doing all these things, and we were like one-off building all of these things. Some of you guys remember, some of you guys were around when I was doing this, and we were like building out all these different pieces and adding in things. Well, what if I told you, if I pull down a new image, so I'm using a Rocky 9.6 image that's from the web, from the Werewolf CIQ. What if I told you that when I go to 9.7 or 9.8, I have to go do all these again by hand? You'd be like, oh, you're a dummy. Now, it's a good thing I got my notes, guys. But wouldn't it be better if I could pull this all down and just hit it with an Ansible playbook real quick? Which, by the way, the Stig folder that I'm in, it actually will deploy all the Stig changes right into that environment for me too. So that's another one. Like I showed you guys before, we have 462 Stigs for RHEL 9. That's a lot of effing Stigs. Now you can't get them all on there. That's STIGS, Secure Technical Implementation Guidelines. But we could edit Ansible editing images directly through a chroot jail, but it can apply. So my point is we can overlay changes in an automated fashion, and then our pulling down of new images can be built through a pipeline. And then I could build all this, I can modify it all with very little affecting my Netflix watching time, right? I joke around about that a lot, but guys, like if you do this stuff and you build this stuff to work like this, you'll get a lot of stuff done, and people will be like, man, that guy gets a lot of stuff done, but really all you're doing is letting your automations that you've built do the things for you. So, all right, anyways, let me get this out of the way because this wasn't the purpose of the talk. I had to grab that because that was something I knew that when I did would be there. Boris said, how do we handle keys, or are you not creating a service account for the tar? Yeah, so Boris, I would create keys. So sometimes I'll create keys. What you do a lot of times in the enterprise, and what I'm doing here, is the targets are going to be accessed through that service account. So a lot of times the secrets that have to be collected, so like let's say that we have a rotated every 2 months, or maybe even every time you use it, password, that password will be maintained by inside of like our automation tool, like Ansible Automation Platform can have a vaulted version of that password, and then that will go, and then that password will be validated against whatever, because typically that Service Ansible account's actually tied up to like LDAP somewhere or Active Directory, and then now that's changing over here on Active Directory, and your machine's just checking it, but then you've got it pulled down and like it's locked in over here in like a vault or something on Ansible Automation Platform. That's how I do it. Could you do it with keys? Absolutely. And actually, people could push keys in these environments if they wanted to. And I'm obviously gonna allow that. Your root, you can do whatever the hell you want once you're in the lab environment, right? But I'm gonna try to show. In fact, the reason that user comes in and has to sudo up is because we would never allow a user to jump into something customer facing or something as the root user. In fact, we should never configure by jumping directly in over the root user. Now, I don't know. Is that really that big of a risk? Maybe not. But typically, like on a running system, you have to come in a lower and elevate up because now we have records of it. And I'll tell you guys, everything we do has to be tracked as systems people, right? Have Netflix time when the Netflix is working? Yeah. Quartz, I had to cancel Netflix the other day. I was really sad. I don't think I've canceled Netflix since like 2014. And I don't cancel it. Like, I'm not one of these guys that like monthly cancels shit. I canceled them the other day because my wife went out of town and she had downloaded a bunch of stuff and they had triggered my IP to something else. And they told me that my home IP wasn't the Netflix IP, wasn't like my actual IP. And I was like, you motherfucker. I was so mad. But the other thing that makes me mad is their method by which they track you is IP. And I have 2 IPs that come into my house. And I've written this up when it first happened, when they said we're going to start tracking dual homes, and I'm like, not by IPs you're not, because I'm in one home, but I have 2 IPs coming in, so your method is flawed. Now I get that I'm like the extreme edge case. I'm less than like 0.001% of people that probably use the service like that, but I don't give a shit. It shouldn't inconvenience me just because they want to use some blanket method for people. I've never stolen from them. I mean, they don't know that, but I'm saying, like, you know, like, you're just going to lump me in with all the people that are sharing accounts when they've said that they wouldn't. Probably in things that they've never read, but that's neither here nor there. So you guys just saw me slap together. Guys, I just slapped together like the stupidest little playbook of all time to just deploy that one thing. And you might have said, well, couldn't you just went in there and did a user ad? Yeah, I could have. But now I have it there. And now I actually have the start. That's the start of my Ansible deployer. So I'm going to actually copy this out. Where am I at? I'm going to move service Ansible deploy up 2 directories. And then now it'll just be in my Ansible one. And then when I go to add more and more things, I'll probably just change that from like service Ansible deploy to like, I don't know, you know, target node deploy, and then I can start to split that out to my different environments and my different images, right? And then I could have one of those deploy to each of the images. I could deploy the same one across all images. Guys, you could carve this up any kind of different way. And actually, that's a big part of that presentation on Werewolf, is like, well, you can. There's a whole bunch of ways to bake stuff. Are you going to bake it into the image? Are you going to do as an overlay later? Do you manually bake it into the image by doing a bunch of typing, or do you automate it with some tool like this? And the reason I just captured that was because that's another option for people. Yeah, thanks for coming, Boris. I appreciate it for sure. This will be recorded, and then also I'm actually just kind of burning time for the next hour and 20 minutes, but then I'll hop down in the Discord like we always do, and people that want to hang out while we do lab maintenance stuff will do it. So yeah, do all the loggings. Yeah, we actually have one of those. Not out here, not in the Twitch side of things, but I do actually really like that. Zorgel mentioned, that's what I was saying earlier. When I first started running the groups, then I gave some people that were kind of always around the power to go make other study groups. And typically when we start the 2 courses, there will start being like study groups weekly. People will put in like, hey, let's study for the weekly automation course on like Friday night or Saturday morning or something. They'll put in whatever. Some people, I think Zorgel might have had some going during the week too. But I tell people, like, I'm actually really happy when that stuff goes, because it's not me running it. I want you guys to run this stuff as much as you can, you know. It doesn't have to be the Scott show. That's not the point. But anyways, yeah, Discord has a bunch of stuff. I'm gonna hop down, in about an hour. I'll hop down and we'll do lab maintenance and see if there's anything that we can kind of get done. I'm working on stuff now, obviously, but it's stuff that's not really set up just yet. So what do we need to do? WCTL node list -a. Whoops. Grep for image. All right, we've got target Linux against all of these, but that's not the one that's the target right now on 1.2 through 5.2, right? So the easiest way to probably reboot these is like this. It's probably easiest to say, let's grep target from Etsy Ansible hosts. Did I put the target servers in there? I did. So what if we just did Ansible targets -m shell -a uptime? Just close it in so it's very explicit that I'm sending an uptime over there. Here's all their uptimes. Now we know 1-1 just rebooted. We rebooted him, right? He was 21 minutes ago. But these aren't part of the maintenance. These aren't part of the lab environment yet, so I can reboot them all. So let's do a reboot. and then we'll go back, give them the old kick over, right? They're all going to kick over. Some are going to respond, some are not. And we'll do an uptime, but first it takes about it takes 3 minutes if there's not a bunch of nodes going. If there's a bunch of nodes, it might take a little longer. So we'll do a sleep. Let's go 240, which is 4 minutes. And then we'll wait a few seconds while we talk, and then we'll hit enter. So in 4 minutes from when I hit that, that's going to try to do an uptime on a bunch of the nodes. And I need to, let's see. So I thought about doing this a different way because I have access to the GitHub where we're going to be doing all this out of, right? I mean, I started the GitHub, so I have control of it, I guess, in that sense. But I thought about just releasing everything directly into Markdown there so that the guys can then just modify it any way they want. I don't know if we'll do that this first week or if I'm just going to write them like I've been doing and releasing them as PDFs. But we'll do that. Also, fun fact for some of you guys, I just got asked by the college to teach the Security Plus type course. It's like SEC 302 or something. I said it in Discord, actually. I don't remember what course it was. But anyways, my point is, if I'm going to be setting up time, if I'm going to be studying, not even really studying, but writing my own materials for that, I'm also going to make a version of those materials for us. So if people want to study for that stuff, where did I put it? I think I put an academic something. Where's our academic stuff? SEC 285. So it's not even 300. I'm in a 300 course right now, right? 305 I'm teaching. But when I'm prepping for 285, I'll be prepping my own materials as well on the Security Plus. So if somebody's like, oh, hey, I kind of want Security Plus. Raleigh said instead of looking like we were working on a licensed server for IBM stuff, we can organize into one place, perhaps save millions. Yeah. Let me see what I missed. Old RHEL 6 and Windows 2012 won't upgrade. Oh, geez. Yeah, I know people that were still on RHEL 5 until only a few years ago, and they finally got off them by killing all the servers in an environment off. All right, so we're doing this stuff. What do I got to do? I got to get my presentation all ready for next weekend when we start. I need to get the worksheet, right? We always do. There's always, let's see if any of this is set up yet. No, nothing's set up yet. Typically, I always have like the worksheet and then the lab. Those are like the two major things that are released each week. There's also all the discussions, so I'll be writing all the discussions up as well. And discussions are following this thing called the, let's see if they actually have, they only have a table of contents here. Let's see if they have, I don't know if the guys put this in yet. Earning the certification. Yeah, you do have to do all this stuff for the certification. I don't think they have it yet, but I think I have it over here. What's the thing I wanted to show you guys? Oh no, okay, hold on. I have to show you. I have to show you guys off the real syllabus. So give me a second here. That's the Linux admin. Here's our ProLUG presentations. So that's our admin course. Let me show you guys our. So here's all I have done for the automation course. These populate pretty quickly when we get going. But here is here's the course syllabus that I kind of released to the guys. And what I wanted to show you guys is, and this is inverted. It's normally the other color scheme. This is reversed though, but our competency acquisition path. So how do we get from not knowing anything, or maybe just having like a scraping the surface type, I can kind of scrape along the top and try to figure stuff out if I don't really know it well, through practicing it and getting good at it, proficient at it really, and then applying it and having everything kind of work in like a business sense. And that's really where I want you guys to be with us. I want you guys to go from like an initial setup where you didn't know too much about the topic, but now you can speak to it. Then you practice it and you feel pretty good about kind of what's going on with it. Let's give this another second here. Give them 30 more seconds. Pizza Dude's got 30 seconds. You might remember what that's from. Pizza Dude's got 30 seconds. If you don't know, it's okay. It's from the 90s. But then we're going to practice and we're going to apply. And the yeah, it is from the team. Me and the wife rewatched that the other day, actually. On it was Labor Day. We watched it because we made the kids watch it. All my brothers that live in Phoenix still, they all came over and we had like we do these things. We make these things that are like these sandwiches. They're called Slim Jims. That's their name. Nothing to do with the little beef stick thing. Anyway, man, those are taking their time coming back up. I'm gonna have to go check, make sure there's nothing wrong with them. Those are not looking great right now. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it for sure. That's just sitting there for a while. All right, 2-2 came up, so let's go look at him. All right, we do need to SSH to. Oh, you know what? I didn't set a password. SSH to. Okay. I do need to set a password. I didn't even think about that. Did I get rid of that? Yeah. Forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza. It's true. I want to see if this will let me do the password. It should let me do password. Yeah, that's fine. So let's go over here. Let's do this is going to be automation. No, not automation. Target. Exec Linux, yeah. Now we need a password for svc underscore Ansible. And the password will be, hold on. Okay. Okay, true. Exit, rebuild, and then we're gonna have to push the image one more time. We're gonna have to build it and push the image one more time. And that'll be hopefully enough to get these started up. Yeah, they're all starting. They're just starting slow. Yeah, see, they're all coming up. All right. Let's see. Long story. Yeah, actually, Quartz. I just think there's so many good quotes from that movie for people that haven't seen it. I think that yeah, TMNT, the first one. Other ones are okay, but the first one is really, really well done. All right. Building the image. Pushing back out to target. It has the password now, so now we're going to test the password into it to make sure that the password works for that user. Let's check here. Rebuild the overlays just so there's no problems there. And then just for fun, we're gonna well, we have to rebuild them all, but let's just reboot one real quick. All right. Takes about 160 to 180 seconds typically in my environment, so it's about 3 minutes, a little under 3 minutes for them to come back up. And then what else? What else do we got? That's pretty much what we're doing right now. Just clean up the environment, getting ready. In an hour, I'll hop down into the Discord and we'll do our stuff. But also, just so everybody knows, in 10 minutes, if anybody does want to get involved with the writer's room, they're doing that every week right now as we're getting ready for the course. So if they have any extra stuff, if they're cleaning stuff up, if they're releasing anything, for people that want to get, this is one of those things where it's like, I mean, you can get as much or as little involved in the community as you want, but if you're looking for something to put on your resume, I think it's kind of nice that these guys can show this big book that they did, and then if you're like, well, who are the contributors? Here are all of them by name. You know, if I wanted to prove that I was the guy that wrote this, I don't think my name's here in the contributors, but I'm up in another part of it. But I don't know where they have me somewhere. But here's the people who actually did it. So if they have it on their resume and somebody says, "Can you prove you were part of that?" Well, here you go. Here's my name on it, right? I think my name's up at the front. I don't know. They put me somewhere. I'm somewhere in here. I don't know. About ProLUG. I'm probably in the About ProLUG. Yeah, there I am. All right, good. All right. Who I am is less important than the skills that you guys get. But I find sometimes people are like, "What are your chops? What are you doing to teach me Linux?" And I'm like, "Oh, I guess I don't really have any chops." But you know, or that's less important to me than being able to do this stuff. All right. Man, I can't believe it's been almost an hour. I'm talking almost an hour already. Let's let this box reboot. As soon as he comes up, we're going to check two things. Well, we'll make sure that he comes up, which should be here pretty soon. He should be coming up. And then we'll jump over to him as the service_Ansible account, and then we'll use the Ansible password. Once I have that, I'll know the Ansible password. I'll put it in there for our course lab, and people can release that all they want because people still have to get into the environment to use that. The target servers are only accessible internal to the lab environment. Quartz one said, "Remember when Burger King used to give out VHS of TMNT episodes?" Man, we barely ever went to Burger King as a kid. My family didn't really have. We had one night a week where we could go out, and it was typically there's a little place out here, and I don't know if it's everywhere, but it was called Little Caesars, and they had like the 2 for $10 or $15 meal, and it used to come in this cardboard thing with like this like almost like construction paper over it, or maybe like a what's that paper called? There's a name for it. Not crap. Hey, wifey. She's not. She would know, but there's a name for that type of paper. It's like a thinner construction paper, but parchment, like a parchment paper. Anyways, but oh, I was just gonna say, what's the name of that paper? But I think it's parchment paper. Never mind. Don't worry about it. I was saying like the type of stuff they used to use on pizzas back in like the 80s. It's like a parchment. Yeah, it's like parchment paper. Anyways, all right. Let's check real quick. SSH target 1-1 in SSH target 1-1 without our keys as svc_Ansible at don't have the password, or we don't have that, but Ansible. We're in. Well, I'm not worried about not having a home directory just yet. ID, who am I? It's fine. And I'm in wheel, which means I can sudo up as long as I know my password. That's good. Okay. Did I kick them all over again? I did not kick them all over again, so let's just go kick them all over again. We'll just cheat again. Reboot. We'll give them 5 minutes this time because it takes a little longer. Apparently, when they all go, and that makes sense, I guess. We'll give them all. We'll give them 6 minutes to come back up. See if they can come up in 6 minutes. All right. So again, these courses are designed for people to come in and learn these different things. This is the automation course. This is what we're going to be. This is what we're going to be doing instructional areas on, and these are going to be the course objectives, the things that I want you to know how to do by the time we're done with it. So yeah, I'm going to have to release a separate lab, maybe a lab guide. I don't know what we would call that. Maybe a lab guide. To copy this. Paste. Let's call this lab guide. I'll just make this lab guide because there's all these questions. People always have a lot of questions and stuff like that, and I'll just kind of try to build something that encompasses all those questions. And I mean, you can never hit everything, but lab guide. Lab guide. There we go. Boom. It's as good as done. It's nowhere near done, guys. Let's see. Got all that going. I've got the lab pretty close to kind of where I want it. Let's go check these guys out real quick. What do I have for today? I do need to fix that Ansible output in the sandbox, so that's something to work on. Oh, there's going to be a new one that's ready, and it's going to be add target servers to Prometheus. Verify that that node exporter is working. Verify scrapes from Prometheus. That'll be something to do as part of our maintenance in 1 hour when we go do the maintenance stuff. VHS, yeah, that's a callback. So sending, you'll appreciate this. Probably you're even a little younger than me, but you'll appreciate me and like 4 of the guys from my office. We used to kind of take laps around our parking lot when it was cooler, and because Phoenix summers can get pretty brutal, so we'd only do it typically when it was like the cooler months. And me and the guys, we walked around, and it was this would have been 2015, so this was 10 years ago. And we were walking by behind the back of one of these cars, and on the back of the car it said "Be kind." This is like "Be kind," like, hey, whatever. Not the best bumper sticker thing I've ever seen, but it was pretty good. And I said, "Aha, be kind, please rewind." And we all laughed, and then we walked along. And then like a few weeks later, my son was showing me something on YouTube, and he was like holding his finger where he wanted me to see, and then he let it go when he got it by me so I could see what it was. And I realized, I'm like, dude, this next generation will never rewind anything. They'll never get that "be kind, please rewind" thing that you used to get. Also, you used to get charged if you didn't rewind stuff, so you might as well have rewound it. Sending, this one is not yet. However, this one does have an API. So what I might do sending is for some of the mods and stuff and people that I give access to. They will never be kind. Yeah. No sending. We have an API we can hit with this, and I was thinking of maybe having a key on the auto server so people could do stuff with it, but I hadn't set any of that stuff up yet. So that was just one of those things that's kind of like backlogged, but it's not on the backlog. I probably should put it up there, huh? No, that would be a good one, though. That would be a good one to add. While we're waiting for this to run, this is going to run in the background whether we're watching it or not, in case you guys don't know that. Most of you know that. Let's go to our Prometheus server. Go to Etsy Prometheus. Don't worry, I can start typing before. And then, what do we have here? So we made a lab.json, right? And in here, here's our nodes, right, for the lab. Here's our admins and our securities and our autos. And the best thing that I can ever think to do is just steal from myself, right? I don't have to make anything up new or think of anything. I'll just steal from myself. So let's vi lab.json, and here are our nodes. A little easier to read. And we have now 5 new nodes. Now, also just for now, I don't know if there's, I don't know, I want to say like a correct way to do this. These 3 are not going to be in it. So let me do this real quick. Let's copy lab.json. So now we've got a lab.json orig, and then the one from today, and then now we have the one that we're going to actually edit. So we're going to vi lab.json, and unfortunately, make it easier to read, these three poor guys have been chopped for right now. It's because I needed more capacity in the labs for these other servers, and then we're going to very shamelessly steal. Let's just grab one of these guys, YYP. But then, real quick, look, you'll see the JSON error immediately. So let's go ahead and put a comma there. And just for fun, even though we're not going to do it the whole way, we're going to put a comma here. And we're going to modify this to not be the job is node lab. It's not going to be auto. He's going to be target. And the targets start at 230. Let's go check. They start at yeah, they start 231 to 240. Oops. 231 to 2. Whoops. All right, so P. Wait a minute, did I mess something up in there? I should not have. It's very possible I did, though. Let's see. This will be R3, R4, R5, R6, R7, R8. Oops. R8. P. Go to the end here. We're going to make this one R9. And then we're going to edit this line to 40. And we're going to take the comma off the end of this. Why these ones are showing as errors. Oh, it's just an artifact. It's always fun. We start Prometheus. Prometheus will start to scrape those immediately. So we can actually come to... I had Prometheus open, and I very shamefully closed it the other day. So now I got to find the IP address because I can never remember. 193. Actually, 193 may just give me... Nope, it's not going to do it. Nope. There he is right there. 193. And he does not have them all yet. But he should... Oh, there's the targets. Yep, there's the targets already there. As fast as we could get over there, he already had them. As fast... I'm sure we could have gotten there faster, but as fast as I could get over there, he's already seeing those targeted nodes as being up. And the three nodes, 53, 54, and 55, he sees those as down. Pobre nodes. They are gone. They do not exist anymore. Yeah, they're pulled. 53. Wait, oh shoot, did I pull? No, I pulled the right ones. Yeah, 50. Yeah, they're going to be in there for a little bit longer, and then they're going to get cleaned out. Because anything that gets scraped eventually gets cleaned out like that. Yeah, they're gone. Yep, I don't see them anymore. Oh no, they're still there. Hold on, 53, 54, 55. But they'll eventually scrape out. They'll eventually be cleaned out of the environment. All right. Wait, quit. I don't think I needed to go back in there. All right. Still not connected. We've given it a little bit of extra time, so we're gonna give it one more uptime. Let's see. Are they all back up yet? That would also explain. Yeah, see, they're all up. They've all been up for 5 minutes now. So, all right. So our environment for our targets are clean. Let's check one. There's one last like kind of sanity check here. Let's SSH to auto 5, just some node, and then let's SSH to service underscore Ansible at target 5-1. What's our password? Don't worry, it'll be published in the lab guide. boom, we can get over there. That's all I need. Once I have that, I know that my environment is clean across. When people do the lab for the automation course, they will be building their own inventories to go to their own target servers. Could they hit all the target servers? I mean, I guess so. I don't have any... I could make different service Ansible accounts for each set of target nodes, and I could really be granular like that. But I think that the people that are wanting to do the course are probably serious enough about it that they're not going to be like stepping all over each other on purpose. So we'll trust the goodness of admins, which is not always a good thing, but I think the goodness of admins that want to learn something is going to be better than that. So hopefully that's good. Also, why is my thing not... We took away rewind. What? Yeah, I don't know why my thing's not showing me that. Also, I thought I had another funny anecdote, but as much as I try, I'm not here for the comedy. Comedy is not my thing. Comedy of errors, that's sometimes my thing. Z-Love, remember when McDonald's used to do Blockbuster Studio movie deals merch? I don't know why, but I have a memory of them having a promotion or a deal of Congo. Yeah. Have you ever went back and rewatched Congo? That movie did not stand up through the test of time. There's something at the end where like the gorillas are fighting lava and jumping on rock. It's a weird movie, man. Congo was the one with the giant gorillas that were like, that was a weird movie. I rewatched that about a year ago, and I remember going, what the hell is this? What is the premise of this movie? Even like it did not stand the test of time. Not for me. Which one did stand the test of time? I just rewatched Commando. That one's pretty fun. If you've never seen Commando, that's pretty fun. Arnold movie. All right, where are we at here? Oh, I was doing some research earlier, right? Always doing research. I got an IRB, which is an internal review board for my data collection for my dissertation, due this year. So before the end of this course, which ends about the end of the year. So fisherman, man, I didn't even
38 months of my life.
I didn't even know they gave you Prime. I'm surprised you've got Prime. Man, what good things can I say about fishermen that haven't already been said about the plague? Oh, here's a good one. Who needs enemies when you got fishermen, right? No, I'm just kidding. But if you guys ever join into the server and there's a snarky little bot that introduces itself to you as an old Unix admin, you can thank fisherman for that. So that's definitely a fishermanism. He's the guy that runs the bot. And he didn't name the bot anything close to his name either, so you wouldn't know that the Fisherman Guy bot had anything to do with Fisherman Guy Bro. That wouldn't make any sense, right? But yeah, there's a little bot that kind of welcomes you to the server. And I think, when did you kick that into high gear? That was last year when we were kind of blowing up a little bit, right? I want to say around May. So March, we hit 1,000 people last year. And then like in May, like it was funny, I went down to Mexico and like the server just kind of blew up. In fact, we had so many people joining the server per day that Discord triggered an alert to the mods that was like, hey, if you guys are under attack, if you guys are under a raid, let us know and we'll stop people from joining your server. And we were like, no, don't fucking just, because they were going to close off because they thought we were like under attack, like we were getting like hate rated or something. And I'm like, nobody hates on Linux. I mean, Linux engineers hate on Linux engineers more than anybody else does. So hold on real quick, I'm missing stuff. You don't even remember. Yeah, it was probably around last year when you kicked that into high gear. Z-Love, so back when studio movies left theaters, there was a 2 to 4 week period where DVD wasn't out. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, there was time, and my mom used to always say that. She was like, why do they always say in theaters only when we know it's coming to DVD? And as an adult, I'm like, well, they were saying in theaters only to start, obviously. They just didn't say it. Love going to Blockbuster. Yeah, people remember the distinct smell of walking into Blockbuster videos. There was a very, for people that never had to experience that when you were kids, like, there's a very distinct kind of like smell as you walked in. And then the other funny thing too is like when I first was in the Army, I joined in 99. In 2000, I was living up in Colorado Springs by myself, and I had a Blockbuster card in case I ever did want to rent a movie. But the funny thing was I didn't even have a TV back then. When I lived in the barracks for like the first 2 years, I didn't even have a TV. All I did was go work out in the morning with the Army, which was mostly like long runs, and then do whatever I was going to do all day in the Army, and then at night I'd just go to the gym. That's all I did when I was younger. That was it. It was like just lift heavy things and do Army stuff. So was up for renewal. Netflix was starting to be on the scene. They biffed that. So, yeah, they did biff that. I worked for a company. I worked for AAA for a long time, and we used to have this training every year on like not missing good opportunities. Because like a lot of people don't know that MapQuest had to buy all their data from somewhere, and the company that sold MapQuest all their data, that was eventually bought by Google, because Google bought MapQuest for like billions and billions, was AAA. We were the company that had all that data. We had mapped all the roads since 1906. So if you didn't know that, most of the early maps of the U.S. road system were all done by AAA. So, which was a car club, but then they're also an insurance company now called CSAA. So if you ever hear of CSA Insurance, it's AAA. It's branded AAA too. They're the ones a few years ago that rickrolled everybody. I think they did it for the Super Bowl, but then it also is like an ad that you can find out there. So, all right, where are we at? We've got about almost an hour until the setup of when we do our lab maintenance officially. But I got most of the stuff done. Oh, you know what? Let's go check as my whole system shits out on me. Hopefully you guys are still with me. Let's go check real quick. Here. Let's go look at our lab monitoring setup here and see if all of our systems are in here. All of our target nodes are in here. I like that. All of our target nodes are automatically there. And we only have Rocky 1 and 2 up anymore. I turned off the other 3 Rocky nodes, so they'll no longer show up. But this is a pretty good little environment. Like I always tell you guys, it's like a little HUD, like a little heads-up display of kind of how the environment's doing over here. And that's mostly a field of green, right? I don't see any red in there. Of course, I'm colorblind. There could be red. I don't think there's any, though. But the point is we can see the environment now. So we can see in a quick little heads-up display kind of what's going on. What do I have that down to? Had to go down to 67% to get there. But if I made this as big as the screen, we could make it a lot bigger. All right. Is that all the tabs? I didn't realize it did on all the tabs. I thought it was just the one. All right. So here's what we're going to do. Take a quick break. Let me go turn this off. Go over here. Turn off the camera. We'll take a quick break. If anybody wants to keep hanging out and working on stuff, I will do some more Linux here in a little bit and get a little more prepped up for our lab downtime. This is our last big lab downtime before we do our course, so I want to get anything that I need to in there before that. Let's get our hourglass up. Here's our hourglass. And I'll say take a break. Take a break and then more Linux. All right. Smoke them if you got them. Do whatever you need. We'll be back. Make that a little smaller so you guys can see our environment. Fisherman, did you notice that's a Doom? We did the Doom for automation. All right, I'll be back. Man, I always set up these long breaks and then I come back and it's only been like 3 minutes. All right. Keep taking your break. All right. Still got 30 minutes, or half the time. Aluminum. What is that? Oh, you guys and your keyboards, man. These guys love their keyboard. I love my keyboards too, but probably don't do as much with my keyboards as other people do. Yeah, writer's room's going, so you guys can get in there if you want. Work with other people doing that stuff. We're still on break for 4 minutes, 5 minutes. We got our maintenance window, so if I want to slide anything else in on these servers, I got to do it now before the end of, or before the course starts. Once the course starts, I'll only take the servers down in my windows. I will treat this like a production lab, and I will not vary from my downtime. I do that because, you know, I try to instill in you guys that like uptime is literally the most important thing for most businesses. Like, you can't allow your system to be compromised either, obviously, but the number one metric you're going to deal with on operations team is going to be how available were your servers and services to make the company money. You know, all right. Where are we at? So we're still on a break. Take a break a minute if you need it. Let's see if I have any lab stuff I actually can do. Let's go fix this template while we're sitting here then. So the template's over here. I don't know why I jumped from here to there. Well, I guess I do know why, but let's go look at tab-L. Here, I'll pop myself back up too. I don't mind being on for talking. Let's go look at root streams, code examples, Linux, roles, and then ProLUG, Bastion deploy. And then in here there's a template, and here's the template for the Bastion, right? And what I kind of need to do is we're going to VI this real quick. We're going to come up here and make your selection below. You have 10 seconds. We're going to add a little bit here. We're going to say you are entering the lab environment. All activities may be monitored. You agree to use the lab by entering. you agree to use the lab for the stated purpose of learning Linux. I can't believe I almost spelled learning L-U-R-N-I-N-G. That would be silly. My brain doesn't work the way it used to though, but by the way, so that's going to, that updates every minute. That thing that I just did, that runs every minute in my environment. So in a second here, I should be able to do the last cat command I did and see, actually that's date. It'll run in about 40 seconds. So let's do bang cat, and then it'll be the last command that we ran. I'll go ahead and stop this because we're all done with our break. But I won't start anything too serious until it comes back. Yeah, Hayes, I don't think, yeah, something happened in like my mid-40s where I just don't remember anything anymore. But let's bang cat real quick and see, did that get added? Yep, there, it's already in there. And then if we really want to check it, we can do our SSH again. Although I don't remember the password, so I have to go look up the password again. Where's that thing at? Yeah, I don't know. It's over here somewhere. For people that want to get into the ProLUG lab, we have the procedures for how you do it in the Discord. I'm still using a password. Most of you are getting in via keys. There you go. And then let's say you go down to like the automation course. You get just dropped into whatever automation device you get into. And in this case, I'm in 1.1. And then now on auto 1, I would set up my host groups and all that stuff. So, and then I can go there. df-h, let's make sure we have all of our different environments. We do. And we got plenty of space in there for now, but we'll keep an eye on the space as we go through the course to make sure that there's not too much other stuff going in there. Mid-50s, yeah. I'm mid-40s, so I get it. I mean, maybe not to the same extent, but I definitely get it. All right. Info brain for sure. Let's go check. What other things were we doing? So all these things are, I think, showing up the way that we want them to. All our environments look good the way we want them to. That has been fixed. So that was message of the day, basic acceptable use policy. It's just in the message of the day. I wanted that to be there. So I always leave things here as work in progress, and then I only complete them once we get done with the lab or the lab maintenance. So if we do it and we validate it during the lab maintenance, then I move it over to done, and then we can call things finished. All right. I've reset all of these, and so now I need to go check. There's another thing that I can do while we're waiting, which is this other part in here, and it is this one. That's our private key to go check on all those. And let's go. We gotta go into Linux admin and then roles and then Bastion. And then we need tasks. No, we need templates first. Oh wait, no, this is no. What, I'm being dumb. Where is this? Those are all commented out. It's this one. So it's a daily ProLUG check. So this is the one we need to fix. So we need to fix this last little bit of the Jinja here to properly pull the information. But I also think, how is that being called up here? Hammer Bastion, Auto Bastion. Yeah. So we need to also fix, and we're gonna need to make target. We're gonna need targets, and we could just grab them out of here. Well, those are targets right there. Boom. That's fine. And we can add targets to that. All right. We're going to check this here as we want to add it, and we're going to use targets. And then we're going to go fix it in cron if that's right. And then we still have to go right. We still have to fix the report. The report's still busted, but we should see all the reboot. Well, we need to make sure Loki's working. Then we'll. Well, we're going to see here in a second if Loki's catching everything. We'll see it in the debug here in a second. Oh, what was that? That's not right. Why did it not connect all those guys? Oh, that. I know why. Because these are all new. I just added these, and they're only added here. So we need to actually add them over here. We'll just add them that way, and then in this box. Just for fun. Normally we wouldn't do things that manually, but we're in this partitioned off lab environment, and you're seeing me jump between different networks, and there wouldn't be an easy way to sync these in the way that I have the lab set up. If I put all of my stuff in the lab, or if I put all the lab stuff in with mine, super easy. It's still kind of easy. We could just pull it, but I just do it manually because it's a one-shot thing, right? So not that big of a deal. Try it one more time. Hit all the targets. This should connect now. I shouldn't have a problem seeing them anymore. Yeah, there they are. Gather facts, run everything. We'll see. Let's go see over here. Yep, target nodes are reporting in target 1, target 1, 2. So all the nodes are reporting over there. That's awesome. We knew that was going to automatically happen because that's set up that way. But now we see all the reboots. So now in the streams here, we see all the reboots of the different nodes. So here's target 2.2 coming back up. Here's target 2.4 coming back up. And these were them throwing their reboots in the last 24 hours into Loki. So there will be a bunch of their reboots. In fact, there'll be really a whole bunch of them here. So, excuse me, the easiest way for us to do this then, because we got the, not sure exactly what that is. I would call that a timestamp, but I don't think that's, Yeah, that's not epoch in milliseconds. That's something else. It's probably some generated thing and then some type of epoch or something. But or maybe it's relative time or something. I'm not sure exactly what that is. But however, these are the reboots. So I do have all the reboots. I do have them targeted down to the names of the individual servers. So that's awesome. So now I just have to, and by the way, I have it as the name of the variable. Where's that? I'm probably not going to get to the top. Oh, I did get to the top. So name of the variable .json.data.result, and then each of the results are individual. So 0 values 1, I think. Yeah. We can check that. We can test that. And then we have to pull that out, and then we just have to undo it inside of the Jinja. So we can figure out how to do that. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. It's like, I mean, once we have the data flowing to here, it's just a matter of going and figuring out the template part. We know how to loop over the pieces of a template, and then we just have to do it based on the name of the entries that we see. So, all right, failed. Why did that fail? Oh, I should have set that to report equals false, because I want that report to come out to, like, I want it to write the report, but I don't want it to break right there. Fresh reunion with Corona. Oh, you're saying coronavirus. Sorry, I'm sorry, Z-Love. I thought you were saying like Corona, the alcohol. Not the coronavirus, right? Which I think is often called COVID, right? I thought you meant Corona beer, which is all right. We don't get the error now, but also it's not going to come out. It's going to go over to root daily ProLUG, and it's this most recent one. Yeah, so there's those busted, because it's giving a 2. Well, hold on, wait, why is it given? We do have the 22 systems. We do have no unreachable systems. It's 22 or 21? I thought it was 22 systems. Oh, because it's my own system involved too, but he doesn't really count. And then there's our reboot report, but I had my reboot report only show me event count. But that's not the right number of events. Oh, wait, no, that is the right number. It's yeah, it was about almost 20, a little under 20. Cause that's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then yeah, probably about 20 or so. It's more annoying. Yeah. That one's a frustrating one. I only had that one once. Well, or I think I had it once. I don't think I got it. That result. So for each of those, and then it was Save values. Let's go check. Go event. Let's try event 1, and then let's run it just to say thank you. Yes. Wife got me a drink. Oh, this one's cold too. I mean, I knew it was gonna be cold, but I didn't know it was gonna be like from the icebox cold. That's a cold one. All right. So anybody that tuned in late probably thinks I'm insane. That's probably at least partially accurate. I am cleaning up the home lab environment before the maintenance time, but because I'm doing stuff that's not really gonna take any downtime, I'm just kind of like I'm actually kind of scanning. So Rocky 1 is down. Did Rocky 1 go down? He did not respond. Or did he just fail at the end? Dict has no element 1. What did I miss? Result values. Event values 1. That was my bad. My bad. Let's try this again. So we have bot saying Cold Kiss struggled with Bach nectaring and it's misspelling ginger for ginger. Oh yeah, Quartz, I have, man, this thing has done all kinds of silly stuff to me. This thing one time said something about something black, and I'm just like, oh, I get kicked off of Twitch for that one. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was not something that like would have been like what you would want a closed captioning to say for you. Oh yeah, but the nectar ring was pretty funny. Yeah, that guy. Oh, we failed again. Element 1. Let's go look. Let's just maybe I'm missing values. Oops. Just go up. Let's go look. So if you guys ever use, I don't know what it is in Tmux, but in Screen you can, yeah, it's values. Okay, so it's event.values. Oh, I hope this doesn't give me only. I might have to modify this and do like a number of returns, because if this limits to only 20, like in a page return of only 20, but I had more. Let's see. So it's whatever.json.data.result, and then that'll be event.values. It should work. Oh, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Let's get it going. And it's only 640. It's not too bad. I'm going to turn on this. I'm going to let this go to dark reader. This will be on dark mode. And then I'm also going to turn on revolver tabs. So this can just revolve through all the stuff that we have up here. Because we got the Linux automation course. We got our stuff. Got our admin course. Got our automation engineering course that's coming up. Okay. Didn't break that time. Let's go see. This one. is not what we wanted. It's giving us different values for that though. All right, I'm gonna have to figure out how to do that. I know I said that like last week, but I'll have to figure it out. And then I'll do what I always do. It's the same thing that I did like when I got Loki working. I will always drop it in the Discord. So for people a couple weeks ago, if you missed me or you saw me not getting Loki to work and then you're like, how did he get Loki to work? Well, I always put it in the meeting notes. Like, this is how my query worked for Loki. And I said, this is my Loki calls from Ansible that I was messed up. And this is what the AI thinks I need to do. Now, I had to split this out because the AI wanted me to do it for a generic, Loki server. I had to modify this. But this was a pretty good little starting boilerplate template. What I ended up doing was slightly different than this, though. I could show you guys what I did different. But this got me pretty close to what I needed, actually. I had to modify, obviously, the Loki host to my own host. I had to modify the log query to just the last 24 hours like I wanted. That was here. But I had to modify the query to what I wanted to search for. And then I did that part up in the actual system call, or in the, I guess you would call it the Ansible playbook call. And then in the inherited role, I did this part down here, where we did the set fact and constructed the query and then made the call. So I did this in a different section that wasn't all in one block like this. I can show you guys all that if you want, if anybody's interested in seeing that. I gotta figure out though why is this? That's how we called it, that's what we did. But we're dropping down in here and we're values. And it's not values 1. However, it did call. Hey, I'm not sure. So it did call this. How did I do it though? So I just called values and it just gave me that. That's not what I wanted though. Let's see, filter, Jinja to filter for dictionary. How that's treating that. That's like a no, I do want to be back here. I've ticked object at, so it's getting those as I guess I can try. That doesn't look right though, because it's not actually being presented like that. How is it being presented right here? Values. Just two. don't think that'll do what we want. Of course, I've never seen that work. Like, I've never seen this work before. In this way, from this. So I've never tried this. But that's not exactly what I'm working on. Huh? I mean, worst thing it can do is break. It's already broken, right? Just see. Just pass it through a filter for fun. I don't think that's... Oops. I don't think that's going to do what we want, but... It's already broken, so what do we care? Not sure exactly what's going on with it. So, give it a shot. Also, oh, it's almost time to start our little meeting. So typically what I do in the meeting, I just hop down in the Discord, and if anybody wants to hang out with me, they can. So, ProLUG Lab Maintenance. This will drop me down in the maintenance channel. Typically. Should drop me down in there. And then what I tend to do is just unmute myself. Actually, I might have to mute myself in the channel. That might be what I do. So that if anybody hops in with me, then I'm not like echoing in two places for them. Then if they need to, they can just interrupt me and tell me what they need me to do. Okay. Yeah, that thing's not going to work. Functional method instead. Yeah. I'm going to have to figure out how to unwrap that. Because I can get down to this being the event. Because that's each event. Let's go look up here and make sure I'm not missing something. Very possible. Data stream result. For each event in here. And each event will be this. Right? Then I should be able to go down to dot values and see that. So, result dot. Try that. Oops. Oh, I can't type today. Let's see. I'm curious how this will work. And then if anybody does drop down in the Discord with me, we will work on the maintenance here in a second. Failed. Yeah, I didn't read right. All right. So, where is JSON data results. I have not run into this kind of problem before. Normally I can just read. Oops. Oops. Yeah, it should just be result. I'm gonna do something just for fun. Outside of all this, I'm just gonna say wait a minute, am I wonder if I should be doing this. No, it shouldn't matter. No, it shouldn't matter. Let's do this. Just to get Jesus Christ. I don't know what's going on with me today. I cannot type WQ to save my life today. That's weird. Alright. Let this go here. Or the yeah. You know, I did finish today, though, guys. You guys might like this. I was reading down the Discord. I had been dropping little blocks of funny stuff that I had gotten out of Norm Macdonald's book, and I finished that today. That was pretty good little read. I mean, I was saying in there that my problem with it isn't. Hold on. My problem with it isn't that. I mean, it was funny. It was a funny book, right? And that's the point of it, was to be a funny book. My problem with it was more that I couldn't tell what he was saying was true and what wasn't. Like, he was telling this story about him going, here we go. He was telling this story about him going all the way to the end of this wild, harebrained, either make it big, gambling, or killing himself type story. And it was pretty dark, but it's like, I didn't know what he was actually saying that was real and what wasn't. Like, he talked about getting, like, maced off the side of a building by Sarah Silverman because he was stalking her, and I'm like, this is absolute insanity. Like, I don't know how much of that was real and how much of it was just him being crazy. This is all the output here. So now we just need to see how we're going to. So here's values. And then value 0. Let's try this. But anyways, yeah, the book itself was fun, but why would? No, hold on. No, that doesn't make sense then. We're gonna give this a shot. Maybe I am typing it right, and I'm just something's wrong. All right. Anyways, we'll figure that out later. Let's see what this looks like. I shouldn't have to call result 0. It should just be result if it's the only one, and then value 0 should be the first of those values. I would think. We'll see. We will see. Has no element 0. Okay. Because I've never gotten hung up on anything like this before, as far as the lowest level of this data here. That used to give me a problem. See if anybody's logged in, as we would. At least finished. And that's fine, because these are the individual I don't understand why. Oh, that's giving me. Oh, that's annoying. Yeah, I think that's my own fault here for leaving that. That's my own fault. Strange. Weird editor command. Yeah, this is a lot. I've never played with. Is that a different tool, Haze? I don't even know what that is. I've only ever used Jinja. We don't really need that anymore. I just realized I was printing out all the other stuff that I didn't care to see. I didn't care if that other stuff printed out. I needed to not see it anymore. So. Other effort. Well, that's still going to print it out. Alright, well. I can filter this down. I just have to figure out how to do it. And funny enough, comments don't work in Jinja apparently. I thought they did. Apparently that, because this still ran, even with the comments in front of it. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We could do. We could even do something up in Ansible where we set a value based on what's in there. Probably easier to do it down here in the template though. Yeah, that's fine for now. Alright, let's see if anybody's hopped in the Discord. I don't see anybody in here with me, so let's keep working on stuff. If anybody hops in, they can talk to me. Or we can work through whatever we're working on. Jeez, that's fucking annoying. I hate when you barely touch the top of the screen and then the windowing takes all the way, just takes the whole thing over. All right, we'll leave that unfinished for now. Apparently it's not a numbers problem, it's just a problem with that. Let's go look at our con board. We've got the basic message of the day. Let's go validate that real quick. And we can do that right here by jumping into here. And then I just need to get the password, which I could key. Everybody else keys, by the way. So you might say, well, how do you get into the environment? So we'll say 3, automation course. And we are entering the ProLUG lab environment. So, okay, we have that. So we can call that done, right? But the one thing that everybody else does in the environment that's not me is they use right here. If you're in our environment, you go to ProLUG lab environment, you can drop your public keys in here, and I will move them down. I will drop them down in for you guys. So there's a whole bunch of public keys here. Public keys are fair to, you can share them however you want, because there's a one-way encryption hash, right? Like there's no worry about people coming back and taking your data or getting into any of your systems or any of that kind of stuff. So public keys can be shared far and wide, and that's always fine. Let's go look at our other stuff in here. Update reboot process for the lab nodes. We're going to call that work in progress. We're going to start working on that now. Monitoring for the lab. We have the monitoring pretty well set here. And there's probably a little bit more monitoring that we can do. But monitoring breaks out, in this case, into kind of two components. There's the like capacity and the like performance monitoring. And there's also like the security monitoring. Security monitoring is all in place. We're tracking that stuff all in real time. But I mean, is this enough monitoring as like a heads-up display for the system? That's not bad. That's not a bad little heads-up display, and I get what's going on. So I'm okay with calling this like done for now, and we can add more to it as we need to if anything happens. Fix Ansible output for the sandbox. That's what I was just working on, but we'll still have to do that. Add the target servers to Prometheus. We did that, so those are added. I don't know why that won't go. Those are added to Prometheus, so we did that. We can validate that right here by saying, does Prometheus have, let's see. He is our 193 box. Does he see all of those nodes and are they all up? Here's all our target boxes, and they are all up. The one is up. So he's gathering scraping data from them, meaning that their firewalls are allowing it through, they're allowing it through. We can go look just for sanity check. Target 5-2, let's say, ss-ntulp. There's 9100, so that's node exporter. System, let's see, firewall, CMD, list all zones, is that right? List all zones. And we would see here that Prometheus node exporter is allowed on the public active zone. So there we go. We put that in there a few weeks back, and then we're just using one of those templates again. So that's good. Okay, so that's good. We can call that pretty solid. Frequently asked question for the lab. I need to write that. So I actually have that open right here. Some of you were here earlier. Here's like a lab guide, or this will be our frequently asked question guide. And I'm going to have this populated with all of the questions people ask and what can break and just kind of like quick stuff. And then this will be linked. I'll probably just see if the guys will just link it on all the books or on all the courses, but it'll be especially important for the Linux automation because it tells you how to hit the target servers. So that'll be important. And maybe we go to keys in the future for those, but for now I do want a password, just because we would set a password in a vault and be able to use it, and I can show you guys how to use that too during the course, which will be important. All right, what else do we got? Let's see. Pull of your, yeah, this one's gonna sit in the backlog for a long time. We actually planned to do this like years ago, and I moved it over to this one. So that's actually 1,453 days ago, which is like many years, right? Build out the automation targets for the course. That's done. We have the automation targets up, so we can move it here, and then we can move it over here. So that's done. So we don't have anything that's really ready, but work in progress. These are the things that I've been kind of working on, and then we'll kind of keep going from there. So let me check real quick in the Discord one more time. Nobody's joined, so I'll probably just I'll just call this event done. Nobody came, so it's not that big of a deal. Normally I'll just work through things if people ask me questions or we work on stuff, but I don't need to hold that open if we're doing other stuff. It's very important for me to tell you guys that are here that we have a lot of stuff coming up. In fact, the writer's room is going right now. We just finished the lab maintenance. I didn't have to reboot the nodes any. None of the nodes that are already available had to be rebooted, so maintenance was quick. Maintenance was quick this week officially. Then bash study groups are every Saturday morning and every Saturday night. But so there's the night one. Next Saturday, though, we start the security engineering course round 2. So people that want to do security engineering and see what that looks like, that's free. And the 16-week automation course is also free. The security engineering course is 10 weeks, in case you're wondering. That one will finish, I don't know, 10 weeks from next week. Before the end of the year. The automation course will go all the way to the end of the year. So it'll be September, October, November, December. Yeah, this will go all the way into maybe even the new year. The automation course will. But I think guys will get a lot out of this if they come to this one. So, and then we have lab maintenance every Sunday. But again, this Sunday I've been working on the maintenance for the last few hours, so it wasn't really super important that we had anything. Like there wasn't anything that couldn't be done even beforehand. And then these things right here can all be done during this next week to get us ready. These are really the last things I need right here. These ones to be ready for the course. Those are the last things that I've kind of identified to be ready for the course. People that want the link, this is what the course is gonna look like. This is the table of contents for right now that the guys have. So if anybody wants it, whoops, oh, that was not good. Copy, paste, and paste. Hey Klondike, how's it going? I'm just showing you guys around kind of the stuff. I'm just letting the ticker over here spin on the right for our different lab environments and different stuff that we're working on. Let's see, did I have anything else to show you guys today? Yeah, well hopefully this stuff's useful to you. That's the goal. Let's go over here. I'm not going to be able to show you guys this right now. I am doing this presentation tomorrow, though, for work, my little werewolf presentation. But I can't show you guys this version of it because this is the version for my actual company. And I have stuff that's in there near the top that I can't show you guys. But, oh, you know what? I don't have, where's my picture at? My picture's not in this one. Oh, no, this is the other one. This is the other one. So this one, I could show you guys this one if anybody wants to see it real quick. So this is the one that's for outside of work. This is the one that's how Werewolf fits into high performance and supercomputing environments. I can just run over this real quick for you guys so you can see it. Plus, it'll let me practice some of the stuff I want to say for the other one if you guys want to see. Also, is the security engineering course to be a step further for the Linux admin course? It's a little further along period in that. Hold on, let me pull this up. I had a question on the YouTube side. Said, is this like a little further along? I would call this like a totally different focus. The Linux admin course is like, what does it take to do Linuxy things for a company to keep their servers running? This one is building into Linux servers as we build them, all the security that you need for like, I mean, I guess I didn't cater it to any one. I did have us do HIPAA, but it was like any standard that you could throw at us, we could have figured out how to do for this course. So it was like building the server and getting compliance into it as we go, securing the network, allowing users in, then making bastion hosts and air gapping our systems and knowing how that works. Then it was updating and patching our stuff, monitoring with logs and monitoring with alerting, so sending stuff out from a closed system. Then we had the configuration drift and remediation, so people are doing weird shit on our environment. We need it to come back to good. And then certificates and key madness. Those are very important for how you kind of maintain an environment, and also if you want to get into what we call zero trust, right? and then recap and final projects. So no, this is a different focus than the admin course, in that the goal of the admin course was to do admin things and keep servers running, right? Keep the lights on, handle tickets, knock back stuff that's coming from your different dev teams and stuff like that. This was like compliance for engineering. Like, as we build something, how do we maintain, I don't want to say the intangible, because it's very tangible. Well, I guess everything in technology is intangible unless you touch in a server rack. But I'm saying it's like it's very much like these are reportable things, and I showed you guys how to like build them and report them to the company. So it's hopefully something useful. Sebastian's a great host. I only know one Sebastian Hayes, and I don't know if he's the same one that you're thinking of. Interesting. Yeah, it's intertangible. Yeah, it's both tangible, it's both touchable and not touchable at the same time, right? Anyways, let's get into this. So I'll do the werewolf one real quick, just because I want to run through it and think about some of the things I might want to say in my. However, my other one I've added a little bit too, so I'll have to feed it back into this course. So overview: what do we do around here? Why are we talking about werewolf? What is supercomputing or HPC systems? And you'll hear people in the industry use supercomputing and HPC interchangeably. HPCs are high performance compute systems. So high performance compute is like the general practice that we do, and a supercomputer is the thing that we build. I don't know, that's probably the best way to say it. What does werewolf do, and how does it do it? And how does it fit in with supercomputing? That's kind of the whole thing. Klondike, I loved XCAT back in the day. In fact, my company Redline still maintains XCAT, even though IBM stopped maintaining it last year. And we were planning, before one of my colleagues, who's actually in our server, I'm not going to name him just because I don't want him to feel bad or anything if he's around, but he was actually the lead on the rewrite, and then he left the company. So the rewrite's not happening. My company, Redline, we took over maintenance of XCAT too. That being said, I love XCAT. I could stand up any number of thousands of nodes in XCAT, and it's a fantastic tool, and I could still use it for. Yeah, I tell you guys all the time, the tool is just like an extension of what you know how to do with the tool, right? Like I still have to know how to admin Linux servers. But anyways, my point in saying that is XCAT is great for what it did, and we could still use it. But Werewolf is kind of a more modern way to do it, especially when the focus is on stateless nodes. So that's what I would say. Yeah, XCAT's great. I have nothing bad to say about XDish and XDishback and all those different commands that I used to use. But there's that. So let's talk about, if you guys haven't seen this before, we'll run through it so you guys can see it. But this is Werewolf. Werewolf comes from Beowulf. It's a CIQ project. CIQ are the same. Oh, we'll get to it here in a second. So what do we do around here? In ProLUG, we teach people about Linux and Linux jobs, sometimes using high performance compute or supercomputers. You will see me do supercomputing topics. You will hear me talk about it sometimes. I have YouTube, presentations on how we build high performance compute and all that kind of stuff. You just got to go over there and look for it. All right. So how do we build supercomputers, or alternatively, what are supercomputers? Now, for you guys that are, we're not doing this for my company right now. My company gets a different version of this tomorrow. There's a couple of slides that you guys don't see here that have to do with my company and what we do, because we're kind of a dispersed group of people that do different projects. So I kind of key them in on what we do in the company. I can't show you guys that because customers and what we're building and those kind of things. It's one of those things that's like, I don't want to say you don't talk about in polite society. It's more of like in aggregate, it becomes something that's business confidential, right? We don't talk about. It would just be like if I told you like everything that went on inside of a house one day. That's not really. You don't really air dirty laundry, as they say, or you don't let people watch you make the biscuits, or whatever you want to say about that. So what are supercomputers? This comes from the NIST special publication 800-223, which is a fantastic way to look at supercomputers. And what a supercomputer is a bunch of nodes, a bunch of systems that are behaving as one system. Whereas if you've ever done virtualization, some of you guys have used virtualization or something, and it's one big system, and then we carve it down into a bunch of little systems for granularity and efficient use of resources and overcommitting and all these kind of things. We don't do any of that inside of a supercomputer. Yeah, people are trying to bring Kubernetes in, and people are trying to bring all these other things in, but if we're being honest, All of that stuff is happening typically more over here on the management side of things, because the compute nodes, they are like drag racers. We keep them as lean as possible. We keep them just these simple, just workhorse, just machines that execute code for the whole supercomputer. And to that effect, if you guys have never seen this before, all login, all data transfer, all web access, if you have applications like Open On Demand or something that allows people into your cluster, that all happens over here. And then you submit jobs through a scheduler, typically from a login node. You'll submit jobs to a scheduler, and then the jobs will be put out there against as many systems in the cluster that need to run that, right? The storage is over here, so you'll upload, let's say you're doing a big data set, you may move it in through a data transfer node, put it out here on the storage, and then you go over and kick off a job with like the scheduler that says, hey, go run, 20,000 passes of something against all this data that I put out there in this location, and it chews it up and it gives you output when it's done. And then sometimes you've got to pull that output back out through the data transfer nodes to go do something with it somewhere else. But this is the kind of workflow of like high performance compute nodes, right? We build all of these things here over to the side of the cluster proper on the cluster internal network. And then typically we have high performance networks over here on the side that are like InfiniBand, or there's a bunch of other types of technology, but I'm used to InfiniBand because it does like RDMA directly into the memory and it's super fast. And then we use some kind of big parallel file system out here on the storage nodes. That tends to be Weka or GPFS or Lustre or something else like that. And then big back-end storage arrays of disks that are modified in whatever way to be rated and redundant and all that kind of stuff, right? So this is kind of how a big high-performance compute system works. You've got your management devices over here off to the side, their schedulers, resource managers, and provisioning tends to be what was done by XCAT, as was mentioned earlier. But now we're going to be using another tool, and we're going to talk about that tool, Werewolf, right? Then you got your compute nodes over here doing compute things. They are all perfectly at both the hardware and the software level identical across all of them. If they are not, you need to remove them and make them so. This is always true. If you have one node that's just a faster drag racer than the others, that's not good. You need them all to be the same speed, and we do all kinds of performance testing and benchmarks across them. The primary one that we use for speed testing is called LinPack. LinPack is also the one that we use. That's spelled right. That's the one that we use when we want to benchmark our system for the what we call the top 500. And I've worked on systems from the top 5 all the way through top 500, but the systems that I currently maintain, they debuted at 38 and 39. So the Dogwood and Cactus clusters of NOAA. I'm allowed to say that because they've published many things on them. I can give their names. But I also have a bunch of other ones. And then one that my company is supposed to be working on early next year is supposed to debut at 1. So that's all I can say about that for now. But it's with some of our partners and different vendors that we work with and stuff. All right, so what are some major problems with building supercomputers? So what are the things that we all run into? Like, you've heard me mention this thing called XCAT, and then you heard me talk about some of the things that it does. Well, what are some of the things that are problematic? Well, these compute nodes over here, you might very astutely count, it's 4 across and 7 down. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you can do some quick math on that and go, well, that's only 28 nodes. That's not too hard to maintain. But that's not the real scale of this, right? We're talking, this is just with an n in there, a dot, 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 and an n, all the way to as many numbers as we can get to. I routinely work on clusters with 10,000 plus nodes. So if that's the case, stateful nodes are very hard to keep updated. If we've got a stateful node, if I deployed them all January of last year, getting downtime in this cluster ever again to patch those nodes and move them forward in a controlled way, very difficult to do. It's easier with tools like Ansible, and it's easier if we have like scheduled downtime maintenance where we can do that, sure. But for the most part, that's a nightmare to keep stateful nodes configured and maintained and that kind of stuff. So that's one thing that's hard. Another thing, yeah, you need some downtime to really do thousands of nodes. Now, you can roll through. Now, you say, well, Scott, couldn't you roll through them? Yeah, you can roll through them, but now you've got to be switching your partitions because, again, when the scheduler is sending stuff out to nodes, the nodes it lands on, let's say you've got a job that needs to go across 400 nodes. Those 400 nodes need to be the exact same. Also, they're locked up for the entirety of the time of your job, and some jobs run for weeks. So now Scott's stuck not being able to patch those last 400 nodes that you're running. It's a nightmare. It's absolutely a nightmare, patching downtime. Okay. Stateful nodes do not adhere to CI/CD best practices. So if any of you have ever done continuous integration, continuous delivery, you know that the number one rule of it is I need to be able to kick things off and spin forever and dev. I need to be like, who was that? Was it Chris Rock? I'm pretty sure it was Chris Rock, and he's talking about the rims. He's like, they're spinning, they're spinning, they're spinning, right? CI/CD always needs to be able to spin. Well, you can't do that in these older monolithic ways of doing this stuff, right? And then changes across the environments are very hard to track and replicate in redeployed nodes. And what I mean by that is I built these nodes in, was it 2025 now? January of 2024, I built these nodes. So that's almost 2 years ago. And the nodes have been getting maintenance on them. They've been getting patching updates and this kind of stuff. Again, nightmare. But they're getting patching updates. And then a block of nodes gets, there's a power outage and they have problems. So we pull them all out and we do them. And we've got the procedure to build them back to my original January of 2024. But now I've got to zipper forward all these different changes that entire way, which I hope I kept track of. I can redeploy it, and let's say I did it all with Ansible, so I can run all my Ansible playbooks again, but that's a fucking nightmare. Literally a nightmare. Like, I have nightmares about doing that stuff, right? So that's a problem. That's a modernization problem. Like, it was a problem back in the day, too, but we just knew things took a long time. Now we want things to move faster and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So we do want CI/CD, but we don't have it in old HPC clusters. We do not have any of this stuff. Well, these are the problems. These are major problems. So let me talk a little bit about the tool Werewolf, and it's going to make a little more sense of why I'm bringing it up here. But it's supported by CIQ. They're the same people that do Rocky. So you guys see me do a lot of Rocky Linux in the lab, and you see me run Werewolf. Well, they work together because they're the same company. Here's their website, werewolf.org. There's GitHub. You can download it. You can download it as an RPM for RHEL or Rocky systems. It's RHEL, and also I updated this for my other version. It's also SLES, which is SUSE Linux Enterprise Server, and we can maintain any number of stateless image nodes outside of that. But the original Werewolf needs to be on either RHEL or SLES. Okay. Once it's installed, it runs as its own standalone server within the systemd. It runs on port 9873, and because of that, it can be, if we can run something as a server on top of a server as a service, right? Inside of systemd, we can control it with high availability tools, which will come up. I think I have that at the end on this one. So let's talk about installing Werewolf. How would we get it on a system? Binary RPMs are built every time they build it for RHEL and SUSE. SUSE is SLES, right? SUSE Linux Enterprise Server. As part of their CI/CD, you can install it like this: DNF install whatever version, or zipper install whatever version. Pretty straightforward, normal stuff. If you want to compile it yourself, you need to make sure you have make and go. That's pretty much true of most systems, and that's a pretty light dependency stack. You may have to go grab some more, but those are the published dependencies. So as long as you have make and go on there, you should be able to get it running. And then once you have it installed, if you want it to properly run and do Werewolf things, you need to have a DHCP server, TFTP server, and NFS utils, which is the RHEL version of an NFS server. It's not NFS server common like it is in other distributions. It's NFS utils. So those are the things that need to be there if you want to run Werewolf after you've installed it, right? Okay. So how does Werewolf fit in as a cluster manager? See Werewolf here? He doesn't know who to attack. He doesn't know what to do. All right. Werewolf takes over an environment. That's an important way to put it. See, I showed this to the wife. The wife loves these, but the Werewolf foreman there, as you see him, he's not foreman, nothing to do with the project foreman. I did not tell it to do full moon builders. It did that itself, and I thought that was hilarious, so I left it up there. But it takes over an environment. It must be the DHCP server. It must run that itself. It assigns identities for iPixie boot. It keeps an inventory of all the systems, right? It does all that stuff. It provisions servers out via TFTP and gives out the appropriate components. It can share out NFS if you want. It can control your cluster keys. It can sync users into the different environments that what we call images that you pull in, container images. They used to call them containers, but now they're all images. But you'll still see it in older documentation referenced as container images. So that's important. But yeah, this is where it takes over the environment. It wants to be in charge. There can only be one of them. It can only do the things that it needs to. And Werewolf manages the entire environment. It does the node definitions, so your inventory and your nodes. Customizations for each node can be done inside of it. You guys have seen me pull up Werewolf and do different stuff inside of there. We'll do that in a little second here. It has DHCP settings, so you can set your ranges and you can set your everything you want for a DHCP service like you would normally do, optional DNS and that kind of stuff. It can handle IPMI connections for both power and console if you have IPMI connections in your environment. In big high-performance compute clusters, we normally do some type of power and console over IPMI. What does that mean, power? I can reset things. I can turn them on. I can turn them off right from my Werewolf node. And then also console means I can watch a system boot as though I was sitting at the console. That is one of the most powerful things because, gone are the days of us going to a data center and hooking up crash cards. You sometimes have to do that. I still have to do that. I only live about 5 miles from the data center out here in Phoenix, but I can't go to the one in Manassas, Virginia. I have to be out there for that, right? If I want to do that. It keeps all the image repositories, and we can work on and maintain the images while we're doing stuff. It does the system overlays and the runtime overlays, and we'll talk about what those are. And then we can also have optional different kernels. You won't see that in this, but I do like to give a nod to it that you could build an image and then run a different kernel if you needed to very quickly. I would not normally do that, and I would definitely not recommend that in big clusters, but you have the option to do that. Werewolf can do it. Here's Werewolf playing with all his little blocks. All right. So if Werewolf controls all of those things, or can do all those things, who controls Werewolf, right? Well, you guys probably realize the answer to that. It's us, right? We control Werewolf, but how do we control Werewolf, right? That's kind of the crux of this. I would look concerned if I was, if I had a Werewolf in charge of me. Yeah, I'd look concerned too. But anyways, down here, Werewolf has its own language we can interact with. It's a WWCTL. That's how you'll hear me say it. I know people that say WW cuddle. I guess. It even says right there, cuddle. Look how creepy that was. WW cuddle. Look how creepy that is. It's just creepy. All right, anyways. You can talk to Werewolf and query the things that it knows from its flat files. Most everything that Werewolf knows about the environment is maintained in flat files. So we can talk to it. Here's it over here talking its own language. My wife liked these a lot. Do you think these are great?
They're the best.
See? There she goes.
It's like your work in with picture, like it's like a little kid's picture book.
Little picture book?
Yeah, I love it.
I gotta meet my other engineers where they are, wifey. I gotta meet them where they are. They're down here, and we're all up here using Werewolf. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, a bunch of guys in my company already use Werewolf, so I feel like this is gonna be a great, they're all gonna know it better than me probably. But then over here, look on the right, I say WWCTL image list, and it tells me about the different images that I have in my environment. And maybe I do an image list with a -A, and it gives me my IP addresses, or whatever I want to query about the system I can do with a different combination of these commands. So I can interact if I back up for a second as an engineer in general, at the command line, do you guys know there's only two things you ever do at a command line? This is true of anything at a command line. You only set values and check values. Those are the only two things you do. So within Werewolf WWCTL, I can set values and modify things, and then I can list them out and verify that they are the way that I think they are. The system has understood the thing I told it, the syntax and whatever, and it has come back with the other parts that I need. All right, so anyways, instead of using its language, we can just go right in behind under the hood, and we can modify things directly. I can go modify the nodes.conf file. Here's all these default values. I can go change them whenever I want. Restart Werewolf. I can go modify the individual node configurations if I want. In fact, I can populate these node configurations right here all by myself if I want. I don't always have to use wwctl create nodes, because maybe there's customizations that are already applied that aren't in the defaults that I'm like, I'll just grab this and copy these 12 lines or whatever, paste, change the things I want and go. Now you might say, once you get over 1,000 nodes, isn't that kind of a hassle? Yeah, we're going to programmatically deploy them in that case, but the point is we can do it. We can, as long as we understand YAML and what YAML looks like, we could populate these as much as we need, right? That's very important. You're taking us on the HPC storybook. That's funny, with the big bad wolf and everything else to conquer. Yeah, I do think Werewolf's a great tool, by the way, too. I was a little, the way it's spelled kind of bugged me a little bit, but that's not enough to make me not use it, right? So we can import and customize images. So here's an awesome thing. Werewolf doesn't just have to have images that are local. We can go download like a Rocky 9.3 image from Werewolf, where I'm all the way up on Rocky 9.6. And once I pull it in, I can either pull it in and then do whatever I want with it here, or I can build a container file and tag it and throw it up in my own local repository. So there's a bunch of other things I can do once I have an image down. Once I have that image in, I save the file locally and I tag it with I make it a .tar, and then I import it into Werewolf, and now it's a Werewolf controlled file that is able to be maintained within our system. So I can build it. The way I think of this is I can do whatever I want with the image. Then once I'm done with building the image and tweaking the image and doing Podman and all these other build, if I have a Packer or some other tool, I do that up here. And then when I'm when I'm ready, I import that into Werewolf, and now Werewolf's in charge of it. Okay. From there, I can customize directly with container interaction. I can go and do Ansible security stigs or any of these other things, which I actually added. That's what I was doing at the beginning of the stream. If any of you guys saw me capture that Ansible playbook that I ran against just the one node, or well, not even the node, the container image, right? And I added the user in for the targets. And then there's Werewolf overlays that we can do as well. So there's all kinds of customization originally. But again, we can manually do this at first and just kick off our Podman builds. But then when we're ready and we understand what we're doing, then we turn that into a pipeline. We just start to pull down, Rocky image from our trusted internal repository. We customize it in whatever ways that we need. Maybe we add the new kernel and updates or whatever things we need. We put it into like a test, import it into Werewolf, put in a test container, boot it on nodes, and make sure that it's working in like one of our few test nodes or something. And we can have that CI/CD pipeline always spinning, always ready with the newest version to make sure that it'll boot up and do basic, implementations or whatever we're doing. So importing, customizing an image, very powerful. Then we get down here and we can directly edit images through a chroot jail. So I can go wwctl image list and see the images I have in my home lab here. Then I can go into my Rocky 9 image as bin bash. I can just touch a file, just any file. Let's say I just had to make a little config file, or there was just some little file to make an Oracle database work or something. Or this would be a fun one. If you ever touch Etsy no login, maybe that's the way you want the nodes to come up initially, so then no users can log in. And then when you're ready, you have an Ansible playbook maybe that comes along and does remove the Etsy no login, so now users can log in again. That's a very common thing, like when we're doing maintenance or something, we don't allow users in. Almost always easier when we have a Bastion node, because then we can just block them at the Bastion node. But if we don't want users to be able to submit jobs or get in, we can do an Etsy no login across the parts of the cluster we're working on, right? We could have that, my point is we could have that baked into the image if we wanted to. And then we can remove it when we're ready, so no container image could ever come up and be logged into by a normal user. And you might say, Scott, that sounds terrible. I would never want to do that. It depends on the security posture of your organization. That's no more dangerous than anything else, as long as you understand why, right? As long as you understand that that's always going to be there, that's a perfectly acceptable security posture to have in an organization. But anyways, my point is, not to get on a soapbox about that, I do true so that the last exit code is for sure 0. I exit and it builds a new version of that image ready to be picked up by any nodes that come up in the boot process that we're going to look at later. Okay? All nodes that Werewolf wants to control, unless you do something else, are stateless. You can maintain things and watch things that are not controlled by Werewolf, They're unmanaged nodes, but typically when I work on them, they're structured, managed, stateless nodes, right? We can build and define nodes. So wwctl node list -a Rocky 5. This is everything my system knows about Rocky as defined from the Etsy werewolfnodes.conf. I showed that a little bit earlier, and I was just showing generically these values, but these are all the things that my system knows. These are all configurable, all individually customizable, and can be overridden on a node. So here's defaults, right? And then sometimes you can override the defaults if you need to in a cluster for testing or all kinds of things, right? So look at all these values I see. I see how the system's going to boot up. I see my route to go out, right? And I see the type of boot image, or the ways that we're going to boot. We're going to use Dracket 2-stage booting. Once the system comes up, it's going to go to 2-stage Dracket, and then it's going to pull down the kernel that it needs and go from there. Then we can customize overlays, right? So we did all that stuff before we ever even booted a node, and then we get into customizing overlays. And the ways overlays work are, there's two types of overlays. There's system overlays that are one shot right as you first start up a system. They only shoot once. And then there's runtime overlays that are configurable within the cluster to come up as many times as the cluster updates them, which tends to be every 10 minutes by default. I think it might be 5 minutes in some clusters, but we've always made them a lot slower. All right. So then we come down here, and yeah, so this is kind of what it looks like with an overlay. And when you're looking at all the overlays that the system has, here's the runtime ones. These are the ones that are going to update every 10 minutes in my cluster. And here's all the ones that are single shot right here. So we come down here, and maybe we overlay. We look at one of the overlays, so the Etsy FS tab, which is, here's the FS tab overlay, which is a system overlay. And we go and look at the Etsy FS tab, and we render it for Auto 5. So if it's going to be put on the Auto 5 server in my environment, this is what it's going to render as. And I can look at that and go, okay, it's got an 8 gig temp FS, so that works with the system as it boots. And I can see information about how my system is going to take kind of these personality files. I don't know if I want to call them that when I do my presentation tomorrow. But anyways, here's how that kind of looks. So we look at the node, and here's a bunch of the resources for FS tab over here. They're defined variables. Over here's the overlay template, and look at it. It's a big old messy. I'm going to take all of these variables, and I'm going to string them out, and I'm going to turn them into these mount options, right? And these mount options are going to look like this. I kind of want to change around the way I have this. Actually, I do need to add one slide here now that I look at that. And then in the running configuration, here's what the net effect of it is in the environment. I do need to add building and custom. So I need to talk about overlays a little bit before I get down into them. All right. And then I want you guys to think about this. This is an important little thing. What's the difference between baking and cooking? Anybody ever thought about this? Hey, Robodom, how's it going? What do you guys think the difference is between baking and cooking in an environment? Oh, Robodom. I appreciate that. Hopefully, the jackets. Hopefully this is useful to you, and now you don't have to watch any ads, so that's kind of good. But the difference between baking and cooking is this. Cooking is not an exact science. You can add some, you can take some out, you can put some more pepper in, some salt. You can reduce a broth down. You can do all kinds of things when you're cooking. Baking is very much a science. Baking is very much a recipe and one shot. And you pull it out an hour later or whatever, and it's either good or it's a piece of shit and you throw it away. Those are your options with baking, right? So when I talk about the difference between baking and cooking, baking is really, like, as engineers, what we do, because when we want any automation to work, in fact, I'm going to really emphasize this in the automation course, when we want any automation to work, it has to kind of stand that bake time. It has to work when everything's followed and you get all the correct inputs. It has to work. That's what baking is. But cooking, yeah, cooking's more of an art, man. You taste it a little bit, you throw a little more salt in it. Needs a little bit of this stuff. Drop some more chili powder. Like, if you guys ever see people that like cook chili, some people are fanatical about, at the beginning, these seasonings. Exactly 28 minutes in, drop the first drop of flavor. An hour later, you drop the next drop of flavor. And there's people that are absolutely fanatical about. But some of you might say, well, couldn't I drop all the flavor at the beginning, and then the flavor you're going to have is their back of their hand across your mouth because they're not going to take any of that stuff. Anyways, no, I'm just kidding. But there's there's a difference between baking and cooking, and most people never think about it. But if you ever get around a lot of engineers, guys, you'll find that engineers love doing stuff. Every engineer I've ever known has loved like brewing alcohol or something like that. Brewing alcohol is absolutely like a baking in that you have one shot and then 2 months later you see if it was good. And then if you ever do like SAN work, if you ever work in a SAN on big data systems, when you do something to the disks and then it's like, okay, 48 hours, you'll find out if that format command you did was right. And you're like, oh God, I hope that thing was right. Right? Because that's like baking. So don't forget to add salt for sure. Okay. So I said, if you have decided you want to bake your solution to containers, do you want to bake it in up front, or do you want to cook the system with runtime overlays where you can change things on the fly? These are your choices, right? You have, I'm not telling you what to do with your kitchen here. Werewolf is like a kitchen. You have all these other things that you can kind of do. And you'll find a balance for what works for you and what you can sustain in your organization. Okay. If you guys ever watch me in the home lab, you just watched me bake some stuff into the Target servers a little while ago, and I did it with an Ansible playbook, right? All right. So then, what is Werewolf really doing? He's pushing these files out into the servers. I love this. This is probably my favorite one of all these. Look how jacked he is. I didn't even say make the werewolf jacked. It was just, it assumed he was jacked. And it also gave him ripped jeans because, you know, I don't know. That's the cool thing. So what does Werewolf do when it boots nodes? It's stateless node boots and queries DHCP. Werewolf identifies the server via MAC address and it starts the boot process. It gives some iPXE boot information. The server is going to start with a minimum boot kernel and download the two components it needs over TFTP, which are kernel and initramfs. Then the server is going to pull the system overlay and apply them. The system overlays are single shot at the beginning, remember. And then the server starts the WW client on itself, and that's going to pull the runtime overlays every 10 minutes in my cluster. It's configurable. We were doing it every like 2 or 3 minutes originally in one of our big clusters, a few thousand nodes, and it was just crushing the box. So we were like, all right, let's back off of that, and we went to like 10, and it was fine. Here's kind of what it looks like. Node boots and doesn't know who he is, so he's like, hey, who am I? Right? It starts to ask. And if you guys care about DHCP, it comes from the old boot P process. And when the system comes up and doesn't know who he is, at layer 2, and in a frame, it sends a frame with all Fs, right? It's 48 bits, so it's 12 Fs long. Who am I, right? Like, and it's a little DHCP frame, right? There it is. And then the Werewolf server should be the only system that responds. You only ever have one DHCP on any subnet. And he'll respond to give iPXE information. Server is going to pull down two things from TFTP, kernel and initramfs, and then it's going to boot via Dracket. There's other methods you can use as well, but that's what it's going to do in my lab. Right, so it starts to pull down its kernel. It goes and it boots with the Dracket initramfs. And then the system overlays get applied. So you see some system overlays happening here. They have a bunch of different names. They happen in the order that you set them according to their numbers, but you can mess with those as much as you choose to in your own environment. And then when it mounts, the last thing it does is, in my environment, is it mounts root to tempfs. We also do that a lot of times because we want the system to be completely ephemeral, and all the data is actually stored. In this case, everything's NFS off of my Werewolf cluster. That's everything that's going to be constant in my environment. But in most big data systems, we overlay with InfiniBand and like InfiniBand connections, and then we connect out to like Weka or GPFS or Lustre or one of these other tools, and then those would all be mounted inside of etcfs tab, right? And then again, that's just where all of the data sits on the cluster, because these are all stateless nodes. If I lose this auto 5 node, and he goes down and comes back up a few minutes later and he's clean and good, I shouldn't care that he just rebooted. Now, I do care if I was running something that now is not going to be able to recover, or a job's going to have to run. We don't want unstable nodes, obviously. However, the node itself is very ephemeral. We don't care about what's on the node, and all the data that's run is being pulled from the cluster and sent back to the cluster storage at all times. Nothing's ever stayed on the node past processing time. All right. So productionalizing Werewolf, put me in, coach. I'm ready to play. That was a lot of cool stuff, but that doesn't make something ready for prime time. You got to get under those lights, right? Half Moon Builders is the company that sponsors their team. All right, I don't know why that's so funny to me, but it is. All right, so high availability Werewolf. What does this kind of look like? Well, we can have a virtual IP sitting in front of two nodes. So we could have primary Werewolf management node of 172.16.06 and 172.16.07 as the backup, but their virtual IP is 172.16.05. So all clusters, all devices in the node, all devices in the whole place can communicate only with 172.16.05 as Werewolf. That's what they do. They don't care if it's a management 1 or management 2 node. They don't even know. They see this virtual IP, what we call a VIP, virtual IP. Then, over here, CoroSync is going to start the Werewolf service, or in this case, the backend disks, LVM disks will mount them. And now everything will be maintained on this one side with Heartbeat between the two of them. If the second node ever sees the first node not responding the way that it expects to, it does a process called stoneth. Anybody here remember what stoneth means? It's one of my favorite acronyms in all of systems world. And it'll stoneth that node and take over all the resources on this side. But to everything in the cluster, nothing changes because they're still only talking to this virtual IP, which he will now start listening on, and he will, for all intents and purposes, be the actual server. Yeah, it is. Invalid instructions, that's exactly what it is. It's run by the same people, too. Yeah, it's run by CIQ. Is it Justin Bernash? I think that's his name. I can look him up. He's on my LinkedIn because I've worked with them quite a bit. My company, I was telling people I've deployed about 16,000 nodes in the last year for government projects and stuff using Werewolf, like big nodes and whole new infrastructure things with all Werewolf. It is a fantastic tool for what it does. But this is how high availability works. We've got back-end direct attached storage, which is always on, but we don't mount the LVM disks unless we need them on the other side. So there's no chance that data would ever be written over here because we don't even mount the disks until they need to flip over to the other side. So that's how we productionalize Werewolf. There's some other parts to it too that my company does, but essentially it's CoroSync and Heartbeat. And does anybody know what Stoneth was? Did anybody figure out Stoneth? It's Stoneth is so both of these nodes. I should draw a little gun here because everybody in my company knows. But Stoneth is this guy here has a direct connection via Heartbeat to the IPMI of the other node, and a way to log in. And this node has a direct connection to the other side with an IPMI connected over there. And has anybody here ever seen the Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing their fingers at each other? They're all pointing their fingers at each other. Well, this is a standoff. Both of the nodes have a gun pointed at the other one, and either node can shoot the other node in the head whenever it wants to. That's what Stoneth means. Shoot the other node in the head. So they're sitting there like this, and this node over here, backup's like, I don't hear you, buddy. But I need to take over the resources. So he kills him at the IPMI layer. He cuts him off and takes all the resources. That's what Stoneth is. Two nodes that are both pointing here. They're both pointing their at each other's IPMI. They can just cut the rug out from under the other one and take all the resources. This is also something we do. We do it high availability, but we do it dual channel with Lustre with OSS's object storage servers. So that we'll Stoneth between them, but then one node will just take double the resources. We'll have half the resources going one way, half the resources going the other way, so they're both up, and then one will kill the other and take all the resources. That's a Stoneth thing as well. So it's STONITH. Yeah, Stoneth. Shoot the other node in the head. All right, and then review. What do we do around here? We build Linux engineers. Why are we talking about Werewolf? Because Werewolf's pretty cool and does its job well, and it's been built into a lot of supercomputers. So it's a good skill, I think, to know too. What is a supercomputer HPC system? It is a bunch of nodes that we want to act like one node for the intents of running jobs and big parallel compute type stuff. What does Werewolf do? It kind of controls as both the resource manager and doing all the inventory, and also as the provisioner in the environment. It does both of those functions. And then how does it do it? Concepts and workflows, those are all the things that we kind of talked about. Yeah, CoroSync is right here. We use CoroSync. Because once something's a service, we can have CoroSync use it as, what is that called inside of CoroSync? It's a resource group, right? Yeah, so we can have a bunch of different resource groups for it. So, all right. And then questions if anybody had any questions. But that wasn't really what we were doing today. We were working in the lab environment and kind of cleaning the lab up and making sure that the lab was what we kind of wanted it to look like. But we'll probably call it. We're almost at about 3 hours here, so shoot, we went later than I expected to. We did lab cleanup, but nobody showed up for 10 minutes, so then I just kind of cut that off, and that's fine. That's not a super big deal. But we did our lab maintenance. We got our lab as close as we could right here. Let's make sure that Go Rotate's still going. We got our lab as close as we could to ready. I have a few things to clean up this week. And when I get to some of those stuff, like the things that I was stuck on, I will let you guys know. I always show you guys up in the Discord how I fixed it. LVM's made it to the second node. Yeah, so when they go to the second node, this is a good point. Logical volume, so both of the systems always see all of the nodes, but it's actually kind of an interesting thing. You can have logical volume mounts not mounted. So LVMs are they're being seen on both sides, but they're not mounted over on this side until that one fails over. So there's no chance to write on this side until we're ready to write. But the direct attached storage is always there. Like, it's not like somebody runs in there and plugs it in. Direct attached storage is there. The channel paths are always seen. You do see both nodes come up clean when you watch them boot, if you ever do. And then the mounting only occurs within the resource group of CoroSync after the heartbeat has been killed on the other node. So, yeah. In fact, as a quick aside for people who have not worked in this space, let me tell you this. How would these two nodes boot? And you might say, well, the primary will always come up. Yeah, but nodes aren't always aware of themselves in the kind of state of like, I'm primary and I'm secondary, and CoroSync doesn't really have that. So in the startup of a cluster, there is a manual step typically. These both are set down all the time. And we manually start the one that we want to be the actual node. And some people might say, well, that seems like a little extra work. Yeah, but look, if you're ever restarting a cluster from scratch, you're already dealing with a problem. You already have some kind of massive thing, so you already are probably all hands. And starting one safely, whether it even be the primary still down and now we're bringing the cluster back up from like a power outage and now we're, bringing it up on secondary for a real reason, that's not a big concern, I assure you. So a lot of times this isn't like this one or this one, because you may get into what's called a race condition. Race conditions are common in computer science, right? They're also common in systems world. What if we're both coming up and I see the other guy's down and I stoneth him? Well, I guarantee you that happens faster than you can type to stop it, right? So you can't have nodes both come up with loaded guns pointing at each other. You have to have them both come up. You validate that they're good. Are you guys cool? You guys aren't going to shoot each other, and then you start it on one side or the other. Which is actually an interesting concept of failover and fail back. When we have a failover in an environment, you might say, well, once the other node comes up, it's fail back automatically. No. You never automate fail back in a big system. You say, well, but what if that starts to move over, locks up or slows resources, and then that system fails again because you haven't tested, you haven't run it through its paces, you hadn't made sure it could handle the load. You just brought the system up. A system's up, but sometimes it's like a little baby deer on its shaky legs, and it's not ready to take the load yet. And that's an interesting thing to think about. But yeah, CoroSync does a lot of that. So does Heartbeat. I'm gonna build a lab that shows you guys how to do this up in Killer Coda, but we'll just be using like probably the HTTP or something. Then we'll switch it between the two. I just haven't gotten around to doing that lab yet. All right. So we'll call that, guys, for the day. It's really just, we were doing lab stuff and we were kind of hanging out in there. I haven't really hammered it, but I see Robodom has. Guys, we've got a Discord. You're always welcome down there. We got 4,200 people almost down there hanging out. Just doing Linux, trying to get better at doing this stuff professionally. So, yeah, I like showing you guys that you guys can do this stuff, and it's very attainable for you guys to be pros in this if you're not. if you are pros in it, if you're already doing this stuff professionally and you want to help other people get into it, which I think is also a pretty noble thing, then you guys are always welcome to hang out down there with us as well. So, all right, I'm going to cut it here. We don't have enough. Well, let's go find somebody to raid on the Twitch side. On the YouTube side, I'm going to go ahead and stop it here. I appreciate you guys coming.